Yeah.
So I call to order committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, June 13th. First item is roll call.
Quiet in the gallery, please.
Thank you.
You can just talk into it. Miller,
Aye. We're here.
Lancey,
Here.
Beck, here. Chansett,
Here.
Solfa,
Here.
Wolf, Barron, here. Lehman, here. Ayazi,
Here.
Malay,
Here.
Buer, Saron,
Here.
Vogelsinger, here.
Quorum to conduct business. Item number 2 then is a reminder to please speak directly into the microphone because we are recording for BATV, so that's council members and anybody who is addressing the group tonight. And then item number 3, moving on, is to approve the minutes. This is for April 11th, April 25th, and May 9th of 2023. We're going to have a chance to look those over. And anyone care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? And actually, we don't have to do a roll call. We
Do
can
a
say
voice. You could do a voice vote.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Trying to get out of here tonight, so.
There you go.
Moving in to item number 4, that is items to be removed, added, or changed. I know that we have some items for executive session to be at the end of the meeting. We're going to be adding for purchase of real estate and then another for litigation. Does anyone else have anything else that they need to add? Okay. I'll make a motion then that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving on to item number 5. This is for matters from the public. These are for items that are not on the agenda. If anyone has anything that they would like to talk about, there is a sign-up sheet for comments for later in the meeting. That's the table?
Yes, for the safety discussion.
That's in the table where the green is. But does anyone else have something they'd like to discuss that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda reads as follows. Resolution 2379-R, authorizing execution of an agreement with Kane County. That's for the Ride and Cane program. Ordinance 23-24, annexing properties, Chillum Drive, Hart Road, Meadow Drive. Resolution 2383-R, requesting a permit from IDOT for the closure of Route 31 for the 2023 July 4th fireworks display. Approval, a Class F liquor license that is for a special event, Main Street, Cocktails in the Park. And then Resolution 23-80-R, authorizing execution of the quitclaim deeds for 5 parcels. That's at Deer Path at Maine, to Kane County Division of Transportation. I would move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving then on to item number 7. That's ordinance 23-23. This is a conditional use permit for the downtown mixed use district. This is a Greenology Brewstillery, 131 Flynn Street. We have Michael Reed as the applicant. Who has this one? Okay.
Go ahead. All right. Ordinance 2023 is a conditional use permit for a brewery and distillery and tap room over 5,000 square foot in the downtown mixed use district. Michael Reed and his business partner, Jason Kelly, are seeking to operate the Grainology Brewstillery at 131 Flynn Street. It is a 3,500 square foot tap room, and the overall space of the use would be about 9,500 square foot. Earlier this year, staff did meet with the applicants regarding the wastewater treatment project, and we did discuss working on timelines together and then identifying any potential conflicts. One of the items that came up through that review was a request to delay the installation of a waste enclosure until after the project, the city's project was completed. That was one of the items that was included in the recommendation that's in Ordinance 2023 from the Plan Commission. They did hold a public hearing on May 17th. No members of the public spoke during the hearing, but the applicant did go through a detailed presentation regarding the proposal. The Plan Commission inquired about some of their planned business arrangements. They do intend to have a patio, not the first year, but opening the following year. Initially, they're looking at getting the establishment up and running. So the Plan Commission did recommend approval of this ordinance with the conditions as listed in Ordinance 2023, and staff does recommend approval tonight. And I should say the applicant is here if you have any questions for them too.
Sure, absolutely. We'll first start with council. Does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss on this one? Hearing nothing, if the applicant is available, love to hear. Opportunity to promote the organization. Hey there, welcome back.
Hey, good to see you. Yeah, so thank you again. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to staff and address the committee today. My name is Michael Reed. I'm a Batavia resident, 845 Woodland Avenue. I'm one of the founders of Grainology. This is my partner, Jason Kelly, of St. Charles. We further would like to thank city staff for the clear and collaborative approach regarding our conditional use permit, and we are aligned with the conditions that have been put in place in Ordinance 2323. Out of respect for everyone here tonight, don't have too much more to say unless there's some questions.
Questions?
Well, I just give an opportunity with a big crowd. When you open, and tell us about it briefly.
No problem. Current projected timeline with some contingency is November 15th, plus or minus a month. So this year is the target. We are all about, better living through chemistry, the field to fork experience, field grain to glass experience, trying to partner with local agriculture individuals, which would include, aviaries and things like that, to maximize the regional and city.
Terroir.
What was the word?
Terroir.
Terroir, T-E-R-R-I-O-R. I don't speak French. And Batavia is a great area because of all the limestone. And limestone is very good in the brewing process, especially in the distilling process. So it's all about craft cocktails, craft beer, respecting those who choose not to imbibe in alcoholic products. We also are going to have a menu that exists as a NA option or non-alcoholic option. And hopefully by 18 months after opening, we'll have our own kitchen going.
And do you have like a website or social media where people can check you out, or is that not up yet?
So we do have a website. We are working on that. We actually received a grant through IMEC for some website development. So I'm currently working on that right now. Social media, we are on Facebook and Instagram and posting and updating regularly. We are trying to allow the people that are following us to walk this path with us the whole way through. So updating frequently and letting people know exactly where we're at in the process so they can kind of see it as we go through it.
People are searching for you as Grainology Brewstillery.
So the social media is Grainology_Batavia.
Thank you.
And Tim has a question.
First of all, thanks, guys, and congratulations. It's awesome. Is this your first brick and mortar?
Yes.
Okay. And you guys have been doing this, I would assume, for a little bit longer, or have a background in brewing, or?
I began brewing in 1991,
I was 2010.
and our third partner, who's coming from Royal Oak, Michigan, has been distilling for over 10 years.
Professionally.
Excited. Great.
I would entertain a motion if there's no any additional discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor for ordinance 2323. Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the conditional use permit?
Aye.
And all those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. We'll see you at the next council meeting. Give you an opportunity to talk again if you're available.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Moving then on to item number 8. This is a discussion regarding Batavia Avenue Route 31 Road Diet Phase 1 preliminary engineering status update. And Laura has some news.
Some preliminary remarks based on a meeting that I had today. As many know, for several years now, the city has been working with IDOT to gain approval for converting Route 31 from Fabian Parkway to Moosehout Road from a 4-lane roadway to a road diet. For anyone who's unfamiliar with that concept, a road diet is a 3-lane road with bidirectional lanes on the outside and a middle lane that can be used for turning maneuvers, and to offer a safe place or refuge for pedestrians and bicyclists who are trying to cross the road. Tonight, we have our consultant, Matt Baldwin, here from Trans Systems. He's going to provide a status update of the road diet project. But before we get into that, I just wanted to share some news with you that's based upon a meeting that was held earlier today that I attended with all of our state elected officials and IDOT. Along with 10 members of IDOT staff, Senator Karina Villa, Senator Linda Holmes, who is with us here tonight, Representative Barbara Hernandez, Representative Mara Hirschauer's office, and Representative Matt Hansen, who also will be joining us here tonight. He's right over there. All attended this meeting this morning. First and foremost, everyone on this call expressed urgency in wanting to make improvements to the road to increase safety for all who use it. The biggest news that I have to share with you tonight concerns the road diet project itself. IDOT has agreed that the pavement marking project for the portion of the roadway from Fabian Parkway to Wilson Street and from Main Street to Mooseheart Road can proceed to the permitting process. The downtown portion of the project, in between Wilson Street and Main Street, will have to follow the typical process that starts with Phase 1 engineering. This accommodation by IDOT is the difference between having to potentially wait until 2026 to implement the road diet and being likely able to implement it as soon as April of 2024. So that's a huge difference. We greatly appreciate all who've reached out to IDOT to share your concerns, and especially our elected officials who made today's meeting possible. Thank you very much. The road diet is the biggest news. However, I would also like to share other actions that have been taken since the tragic accidents happened. IDOT has agreed to conduct a speed study on Route 31 from Fabian Parkway to Mooseheart Road, which includes a review of all of the signage along that roadway to determine if there are areas where speeds can be reduced or signs can be changed or moved to improve safety. IDOT indicated that they could begin this study this July. As part of the Phase 1 engineering for the remainder of the road diet project, the city will investigate whether warrants exist to support a signalization of the intersection of Millview and Route 31. And if so, we'll include this request along with our, for approval from IDOT when we do our Phase 1 project. Staff will conduct an initial study to determine the feasibility of a tunnel under or a bridge over Millview and Route 31. Your speed signs, the electronic signs, will you'll see those erected along Route 31 as permitted by IDOT because this is their road. At this present time, they do not allow these signs to be permanently installed, but we will try to have them up as much as possible to try to encourage people to reduce their speed along this road. The police department has engaged in enhanced enforcement ever since these accidents occurred. The city has launched an educational campaign using videos produced by our police department and by the Batavia Bicycle Commission to educate pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists how to safely use this road together. And just this past week, the school district, library, park district, and the city are collaborating on a signage campaign to encourage motorists to drive safely. Announcements about the program should be coming out in the next few days. So at this time, I just wanted to ask if members of City Council have any questions about the information that I've just presented before we move on to Matt Hansen's presentation. It's a lot of movement and very encouraging news from IDOT. So at this time, oh yes.
All right, took me a
Alderman
moment to
Lehman?
gather my thoughts. The striping of the roads would to Millview, is that what you said? From Main Street to
Actually,
Millview?
the striping of the road will go from Fabian Parkway down to Mooseheart Road, with the exception of the area from Wilson Street to Main Street. That downtown area, there are concerns about how traffic would flow in that particular area, and that will be investigated as part of the Phase 1 study. Yes, Alderman Beck?
And what did you say the date was for the restriping to begin?
Likely April of 2024. And that the reason being that one of the processes that we need to engage in is to seek community input on the road diet. And so that will take a while to provide notice, host those meetings, collect comments from the public, respond to those comments, and then that will be prepared in conjunction with our application to the permit department to do the striping.
And then what was the timeline for studying the downtown portion, and what was kind of the tone of the meeting this afternoon about the downtown portion?
The downtown, we didn't spend much time discussing the downtown portion at this point, but IDOT staff have provided our consultant and staff with their concerns. And so we hope to be able to address those concerns as part of that Phase 1 process. But that would be going back to that original timeline, I believe. Any other questions? So at this time, I would ask that our consultant, Matt Baldwin, has some information for us about an update on the road diet project. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, good evening. I'm really here just to provide the update that we had planned for tonight was planned in advance before, unfortunately, all these unfortunate incidents happened. And so I'm really here to answer any questions that you guys have on the next steps, kind of both where we stand in the process and then what the next steps of the process are. But we have started Phase 1. As Administrator Newman outlined, we completed the feasibility study, which identified what the alternatives were for the road diet through the corridor. So it identified limits, it identified a couple different possibilities. We talked about a year ago at council meeting where I kind of give an overview of what we're doing as part of the feasibility study. And we looked at a 3-lane section throughout the entire corridor, and then we looked at a modified version, which was a 3-lane through the limits that we're talking about with the permit project, and then 5 lanes existing section through the downtown segment from Main to Wilson. In the meantime, we completed the feasibility study, and we have kicked off the Phase 1 process. We had the official kickoff meeting with IDOT on May 2nd. Since then, we've been advancing and updating the traffic analysis that was completed during the feasibility study with additional information that was requested by IDOT. And we've also requested additional crash data. We have to provide the most recent 5 years of crash data. So we have 2 additional years of crash data that we're adding to the study to provide as part of that Phase 1 study. And then we've been looking at the initial concepts, the transitions in and out of the road diet at the limits, and then putting together exhibits so that we can present those as part of a public information meeting here in the summer. So at that time, if you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
As excited as I am about the progress, and I really appreciate your efforts in having the meeting, and thank you to all of our state and county legislators that were a part of that as well. Whatever we can do to reinforce to IDOT, or as the planning process goes on, about that downtown section. I'm thinking of north of Wilson and wondering where that transition is going to start and end to coming north. That leaves, right now, any of us north of Houston Street are left really without a crosswalk to get downtown at all. So if that transition starts, and I would assume it's going to take a bit of space to go from 4 lanes back to 2 lanes, cars racing around each other trying to get, vie for position right where me and my kids are crossing is, I wanted to be super excited right now. I'm just not at that thought. And I think, as we've talked about this in the past, I think there was consensus on council anyway, that it was all the way through, that we were not starting and stopping in the middle of downtown. The businesses that I've spoken to up and down Batavia Avenue seem to all support the idea of the road diet for the comfort of their customers and the benefit of their business. So fingers crossed, but cautiously excited about at least getting the restriping done a little faster for the other portions.
I echo the support of Alderman Beck of having the no transition through the downtown area. I want that to be an area that's safe for our residents, but also to be successful for our businesses that are up there. And just having that slower traffic will give them that visibility. I don't see that area as being a road to get from point A to point B. This is our community, and we need to keep it slow. So if somebody needs to get by quickly, we've got Randall Road and we've got Kirk Road as the raceways for them, but I don't want to see our community as the raceway.
One of the things that IDOT has brought up in the discussions with regard to that particular area of the downtown that they're trying to prevent is stacking that would back up into the road diet area. That would be a concern for safety of crossings as well. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to balance, is trying to make sure that that still flows properly. But again, they haven't made any decision about that downtown area. Isn't that right to characterize that as
Sure.
that?
So that was one of the comments coming out of the feasibility study, and they did provide guidance on that. And they reinforced it during our IDOT kickoff meeting, that basically what they said is that Main Street and Wilson Street, especially with Wilson Street, they are concerned with capacity and safety at that location. And so the guidance that they provided was that they don't want to see a reduced level of operations or safety at that location, which is a challenge, obviously, when we reduce the number of through lanes, to not show any negative impact on either a level of service or delay or the metrics that we use to measure operations. So that's what we're trying to balance and figure out at that location.
But correct me if I'm wrong, when you say reduction in safety, you're talking about only for cars and drivers, not for pedestrians and cyclists.
They mean safety overall.
And they think it's safer for pedestrians and cyclists to be navigating that intersection as is?
I mean, I can't speak for IDOT, but they're looking at a balance of both. They're very concerned. I mean, the individuals that are in these conversations from IDOT are very familiar with the area. They live in the area. They're also advocates for road diet and safety improvement. So.
I have to ask the obvious customer service question. Is there a way to make this process more customer service friendly, more nimble, to be able to be a little more reactive? Because I feel vulnerable right now, and there's not a whole lot I can do to push things along.
With the engineering process, especially with using federal funds, we applied for ITEP funding as part of to fund the improvements. That establishes what we call the federal process. And so it's very linear. So it's phase one gets done, you get design approval, then you submit your contract for phase 2 engineering, and then you start phase 2. It is very linear. Going into the permit process is much more nimble, to steal your word, than going through the traditional process. We're working diligently with staff to provide examples and preliminary concepts so that we can get those back to IDOT as quickly as possible. And it's not, the permit process and the review process isn't as linear as the formal phase 1 process. So we can exchange information more dynamically to get that done in a quicker time. That's why the April 24 timeline's possible instead of 26. We will have a public information meeting in the summer, and so we're going to bring our study information and concepts to the public, and definitely encourage comments so that we can incorporate those into the phase 1 process.
Yeah, as most of you know, I have the opportunity to serve on the State Transportation Policy Committee at CMAP in Chicago. And as things worked out, we had a meeting in there last week that I was able to attend and talk directly to a number of the CMAT staff people, or Illinois Department of Transportation staff members who were there. And they were most of them had heard about it already, but it was very supportive from the voices that I was able to talk. The one comment they made was, Mayor, you got to go out and get the political support at the State General Assembly behind this. So I said, yeah, I'm aware of that. Well, I am very pleased tonight to see State Senator Holmes sitting in the audience, Representative Hansen sitting on the table in the back, and Kane County Chairman Pirog is sitting in the second row here. So I think we've built the political standing here that everybody understands the tragedies that have occurred and the need for us to get on with this as quickly as we can. So I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to put this together. And we got the ingredients in the room here that should hopefully make it go. And I just wanted to publicly thank Representative Hansen and State Senator Holmes and County Board Chairman Pirog for being here tonight and showing their interest and support for this, because that's going to go a long way toward making this thing work. And I've been involved with a lot of other cities and IDOT projects, and without that state representative and state senator someplace back in the background, sometimes those things can lag on for a long, long time. But I think we got the team here to put this through. So thank you.
I had a quick question for you. Some of the alderwomen and aldermen have been working on some possible pavement markings up and down 31. Are there certain parameters that we have to be within from IDOT that would allow us to or not allow us to utilize those type of markings? Any markings?
Are you talking about like the
do we have
configuration?
approval from them to do those things?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
their
what we're
road.
talking about with the permit process, because IDOT has jurisdiction over the roadway. They have to approve anything that would be completed. So even if the city would lead the project through the permit process, the city would essentially fund the improvements, and IDOT has to approve them before they happen. So there's a certain list of items that we need to submit for their review and approval in advance. And one of them was the feasibility study with their comments addressed that relate to the road diet section. Another one of the requirements is this public information meeting that was highlighted, and then the plans and pavement marking configuration would be part of that as well.
What about sidewalks? Is that something that is strictly on the city, or does that have to also go through IDOT?
In terms of making improvements to the crossings, or just?
No, sidewalks up and down 31.
Sure. So there's sidewalks along the west side. For the majority, there are some gaps in sections. Sidewalks typically fall under the municipality's responsibility.
Is that in our strategic plan?
In our what?
And is that in our future plan for the city to finish the sidewalks on up and down the west side?
Ordinarily, we look at if there's sidewalks on one side, then we address all of the issues where there aren't any sidewalks on either side of the roadway first before we go back and put sidewalks on the other side of the street. So we can look at which stretches currently do not have sidewalk, and we do have a schedule for adding sidewalk to at least one side that we're working. But again, it is up to now has been a 100-year plan in order to get sidewalks on both sides of the streets, on every street in the city of Batavia at the pace that we're doing it.
Any discussion? We have a sign-up sheet then.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Would you like me to call the first name?
Are we moving on to
you wanna-
the safety concerns item?
Oh, we're doing public discussion.
Oh, about the road diet?
I think we are moving on to the next item, which is the discussion portion of safety on Route 31. Yeah.
Could I make a comment quick before we go to public comment? I know that a lot of us in this room, I mean, it's awesome that the road diet is moving forward and we're getting some results here, and that's amazing. In the meantime, there's probably other safety implementations that we could be pushing for, or maybe alongside as we are remarking stretches of the street. I know that we're all pretty familiar with IDOT, and we can all make probably pretty fair assumptions about yay or nay. But in terms of the discussion tonight, either ideas thrown out by council or ideas that are presented to us from members of the public, I think it would be in our best interest to not throw the no down on any idea or any proposal. I'll be keeping a detailed list of pretty much anything anybody says about ways that we could improve the safety or calm the traffic on this road, and would love to have a follow-up conversation. I would love to be a part of those conversations with IDOT, or a committee of us to go to IDOT and discuss those, and just kind of keep that level of discussion going. And yeah, that's how I would love to see the outcome of this meeting be.
If I can just follow up with that. As somebody that rides on a road that is very similar to what we're hoping to do, I can tell you that the safety can happen when the right mitigations are put in place. I'm a frequent rider of Church Road on a daily basis at rush hour, while people are going to work and coming home from work. And at first I was very, very nervous and very scared. And that's why I have the brightest clothes and hat and bike around to ride my bike. So I do believe that, the way that we address this and, along with the road diet, it will make it safe. So I do have hope that we can get to a resolution.
Laura, one question about from your meeting earlier today. With the restriping, did it come up that there would be bike lanes put on with this restriping?
No, there's insufficient width on that road to accommodate 3 lanes of traffic and bike lanes.
So we can take out a whole lane of traffic and not have enough room for a bike lane?
That's how narrow that road is.
Those are really thin lanes.
They're 9-foot lanes. There's only 36 feet there.
Just one more comment before we get into safety concerns and proposals. I just want to make sure everybody remembers that Route 31 is not our street, okay? So we can't really do anything. I got some best proposals in the world. There's many that were made previously that were all rejected by IDOT already. The road diet got approved, and that's like a huge step here, so.
It was turned down at council and committee first before another council member years later had to get elected and bring it up again.
Right, so I
We
mean,
were
it's,
even talking about this again, so thank you, Abby.
and that's something that is moving forward, but just for public discussion, everybody just has to remember Route 31 is not ours. It's not our road, though.
So if you've signed up for public comment, you can make comment, but it's going to be very difficult if people just start calling out. Thank you. Should we call the first person? Are we ready?
Yeah, Britta?
Britta McKenna?
Good evening.
Good evening, Britta McKenna, 512 North Avenue. I'm a near West Side resident, 2 blocks off of Route 31 for the past 3 decades. I'm an avid walker and bicyclist, so I've had to navigate, and a downtown enthusiast. So I walk and bike to downtown and find crossing very difficult, and I take my life into my hands all the time. I am very much an advocate of the road diet. And Abby, being my neighbor and alderwoman, I'm very much behind this plan. I'd like to see it go all the way through downtown, not just stop. I don't know how that's going to work. But I also want to mention to the council that when you're thinking about the public education campaign, don't forget to target the distracted driver. 6 weeks ago, I had a near miss as a pedestrian crossing Route 31 and had to actually jump out of the way of being hit in the crosswalk going to the library to return my book. And it was this close of being hit as I was in the crosswalk. So the person was not paying attention. And I think that distracted driving is a huge problem. And if we can minimize and slow down the traffic, that's one thing. If we can protect our cyclists and our walkers, that's another. And whatever we can do to do that, I'm in favor of. And just a reminder that I'm also on the Batavia Parks Foundation, and we had a ride with the Batavia Bicycle Commission and some of you all to try to figure out safe passageways east-west. And we know from that ride how difficult it is to cross Route 31. You just need to get on a bicycle and try. And I encourage everybody that if you haven't done that, to understand it on the ground level, because we need to identify the best and the safest east-west passages to get across Randall Road as well as Route 31. So thank you very much for bringing to this our attention and moving it forward. And thank you to our state and local representatives for being here for the support.
Thank you. Next is Nora Bailey. Oh, okay. No problem, Nora.
Duly noted.
And what I'll do is I'll call a couple of names so that people can be up front. Gabby Garcia and Kathy Sullivan. Did you want to speak? Yes. Are you Gabby or Kathy?
Kathy.
Kathy, thank you.
Konbanwa. This present proposal is as ridiculous as my addressing you in Japanese. I live for 30 years on Route 31. I've seen people utterly ignore the speed limits. I have seen no increase in any kind of police patrol in the last few weeks, despite what happened at Les Aarons at Millview. Simply put, I have a hard time during rush hour getting through traffic as it is to pull out of my driveway. I don't know how getting everything down to 3 lanes is going to help me get out of my driveway, because I live at 1221 South Batavia. I invite anyone to try and go in and out of my driveway between the hours of 4 and 6. It's hard. And during that time, Batavia is the city of wasted energy as I wait for my turn to turn into that road. What are we going to do if there's somebody in the turn lane in the middle and there's an emergency? How do the emergency vehicles go around it? What happens when Bezos's trucks deliver something and stop traffic in one direction? The traffic will back up forever. I don't think this is particularly well thought out for people who live on Batavia Avenue. I'm all for the stoplight at Millview. I think that's what we need. And I'm all for lowering the speed limit. Why can't we do that? Why can't the state see this is needed? Why can't we have more patrols? Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
Paul Paoli, and that's followed by Jeannie Schultz.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm not a politician by trade, as you can tell the way I'm dressed, but I live off of Millview, and I've crossed that intersection at Les Aarons probably 500 times. And I'm an avid bike rider, as the young lady right there, and very careful, but I don't trust any cars. Right, the distracted driving. And contrary to what was just said, I'm very excited about this road diet because it happened in Geneva. You saw the little comments, and it's been perfect. It's not a high traffic area north of Fabian there, off of Batavia Avenue, but something needs to happen there. And whether it's, I don't even think the flashing light pedestrian would work. The street light might be something to consider, but it's not so much for the adults, although we've seen what can happen with that, but it's the kids. My kids are grown, but if I had young kids, there's no way I'd let them cross 31. So I'm excited for what I'm seeing here at the meeting. I spoke to one of the electrical engineers a couple of weeks ago. He said, come to the meeting, I'm here. And great community, so I appreciate what you guys are all doing. So thank you.
Jeannie Schultz. Next is Mandy Glaser.
I'm Jeannie Schultz, and I live on Union right at 31. I guess my main concern at this point is there any way to cut the yellow blinking light? I feel like that is a false sense of security for anybody crossing 31. It would be better just to have the pedestrian crosswalk without the flashing lights. I think that's a danger. I think anybody that's crossing 31 is looking, and I mean, I wouldn't trust somebody stopping at a yellow light on 31. That's my comment. Thank you.
Mandy, you're just here? No comment? Okay. Donna Allen? And next is Sophie May.
Hi, good evening. Don Allen. I live on Gosselin Circle, so in the Millview Townhomes, right off of 31 in Millview. I have a couple questions and then a couple comments. First off, is anyone from IDOT here?
No.
Okay, that's really unfortunate, especially with this topic being so controversial and of concern. That would have been a really good action for the council to take, was to have a representative here for all of us. Second, the diet effort, I didn't hear, what's the completion date?
April of 2024.
So all changes, whatever the permitting allows, all of the finalization will be done April of 2024? Or is that the study?
Implemented, so the road will be restriped in April of 2024. That's the expectation. They said a 6 to 9 month permit review process.
Okay, and is that considered completed after that striping is done? I was a little unclear on that.
It's in 2 phases. We had initially done a feasibility study for a road diet for the entire length of the roadway from Fabian Parkway to Mooseheart Road. IDOT said they would be willing to allow us to go through just the permit process for the whole portion of the road except that area from Wilson Street to Main Street. That has to go through that longer federal process that Matt had presented earlier that requires consecutive phases of engineering, and that likely would not go through until 2026.
So it is a longer-term process. So the concern, I think, at least I share, I can't speak for everyone else, but so what's some immediate actions that can be done? That's really, we're hearing a lot about long-term. It all sounds great. I disagree with the last presenter or speaker regarding the flashing lights because I live right off of 31 in Millview. I think the flashing lights would be really an enhancement because at least it prompts people to see something. Right now, there's a sign. So who's responsible for signage right now to even change out a sign, let's say, from one that doesn't have a flashing light to a flashing light? Is that
all IDOT?
It's still all IDOT. Again,
But we would have to come to that consensus and ask IDOT. So that's something we can do.
Okay, because I do think that would make a huge difference, at least in that intersection. And then the other thing is, I'm not certain who's really monitoring that area, but if you're coming out of the forest preserve, especially like right there where that bicycle is, the memorial right now, you cannot see people. If you're coming down 31, you can't see people coming out of the forest preserve. So somebody needs to do a better job of maintaining the bushes and the grass in that area as well. And then the last question I had regarding the stoplight at Route 31 in Millview. So is that approved?
No.
It's not approved.
We had previously requested it from IDOT, and they said that there weren't warrants. You know, they do a traffic study, and they said they weren't warrants enough to have it there, so they rejected our request. It is we are going to propose it as part of the Phase 1 project that
Of the diets? Okay, plan. You can't just appeal that? I mean, given the number of incidents?
They are the end of the road in terms of their decision-making about that.
Okay, again, it would have been very beneficial to have a representative from IDOT here this evening. Thank you.
And just in terms of the flashing beacon, that was also proposed and rejected by IDOT already at Millview.
Thank you.
Donna Allen?
That was me.
Oh, that was you. I'm sorry.
I can come up and say more.
Sophie May?
But also, a note to keep in mind that we also said IDOT would not approve a road diet in Batavia. And now here we are. So anything that they've rejected in the past, there is still room to go back and say more is warranted. Let's study this further. Things are changing, priorities are changing, and we have to set those priorities.
I have a follow-up, actually. The hawk signal, the flashing light signal.
So the hawk signal they rejected. The hawk signal is the one that flashes red.
Right. Oh, it flashes red.
And the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, our RFB, are what we have that flash yellow.
Okay. Do they allow those still?
Yes. The RRFB they allow, but not the hawk system. Area 1 of IDOT
Except
has
in that one
never
place
allowed
that
them.
they did.
I'm sorry, what?
Except in that one city that they did, right, Gary? What?
Nope.
There's one city that a hawk is in place?
But it's their road. So Oswego, for instance, they have it on their own road. Oak
There was
Park
one
has.
state road that had it installed.
Prospect?
No Prospect?
I think
It was north. Yeah.
Rahat has the microphone.
So IDOT doesn't allow that within their roadway. They will allow it if it is a city-controlled road, but not within their road.
So not on the IDOT road. Okay. Sorry.
No, don't be. I work at Mill Creek on Batavia Road. I'm a lead teacher. I work with 3 to 5-year-olds. I walk on that road daily with up to 8 to, if I have another class with me, 15 3 to 5-year-olds that are doing their best to stay on the sidewalk. They do really well, but the cars are flying by. They go very fast. It is very scary. I try very hard to keep them as close to the other side of the grass as possible, but they see a dandelion and they want to go for it. So I think to just bring into perspective that there are many, many young kids around the area, and slowing the speed and keeping the flashing lights are very good. Those flashing lights are the only thing that I think the cars see when we're trying to cross to get to any park that is on the other side of 130, because those are genuinely where the parks are. And so I just bring it in perspective that there are lots and lots of kids that walk down that street that are not safe when the cars are going so fast and ignoring the speed limit. Or it's not 35, they're definitely going faster than that. But that's all I want to say.
Katie Swiecki? Okay. Lisa Duchek. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can I just dovetail off of what she said? That's an important visual when it comes to maintaining the 2-lane current design of 31, or as Alderman Beck suggested, keeping it 1 lane throughout when we do the road diet project. Just picturing a bunch of preschoolers walking along.
Lisa?
Hi, Lisa Duchek, 911 Morton Street. Was part of Emily's village. My friends over here are also part of her village. We come here tonight to ask the city to please step up and do more, talk to IDOT more. It was tremendously difficult to lose a friend so suddenly and in a way that could have been prevented. It makes me exceedingly angry to understand that nearly 10 years ago, IDOT was approached for safety considerations at that crossing and they were rejected. We were given a crosswalk and that crosswalk did no good. My friends and I are asking for better speed control. The speed limit sign just before that crossing goes from 45 to 40 within feet of that crosswalk. Nobody is going 45 to 40 miles an hour there. The city of Elburn, you know not to go more than 25 miles an hour through downtown Elburn. The police presence there is very strong. You do not speed through downtown Elburn. I want that for Batavia. These cars should not be flying down Route 31. The road is horrible enough as it is with how narrow it is. There are people who are trying to cross the streets with our families to get to the amenities that this wonderful town offers. But now I won't even let my children cross the street because my friend died and a neighborhood child is in the hospital in critical condition with a brain injury within a week of each other. We can slow these drivers down. I would respectfully request that our police force step up and start slowing these drivers down. And greater education needs to happen for all people who are utilizing our roadways. I have had numerous encounters with teenagers on bicycles who are crossing in front of me with no regard for the fact that I am driving. I am stopped at a stop sign and I have two bicyclists, teenagers, who one passes me on the left and one passes on the right. And if I hadn't stopped and hadn't seen them, they would have been hit. And this is right at the quarry. There's tons of kids down there. So they need educating too. And I think our community can do something to step up and put measures in place to help educate our kids so we can keep them safe. And that is all I have to say. And thank you for listening.
Next is Steve Erickson.
Good evening. My name is Steve. I live on 1st Street, right off of Route 31. I didn't know that we were going to get such news about IDOT and the progress when I prepared this, so some of this may be redundant, but this is how I feel, so I'd like to share it. I didn't know Emily personally, but our families were both part of the AGS community, and I am a cyclist and have also been impacted by the danger of crossing Route 31. I also serve as the chairman of the Bike Commission, a voluntary organization dedicated to promoting safety, education, and trail connectivity in the city. I'm not here in that capacity tonight. I'm here as a resident and a cyclist. A few years ago, I was hit by a vehicle while crossing Route 31 at 1st Street. The driver was speeding and texting after leaving the red light intersection at Route 31 and Wilson. I was in the crosswalk wearing a helmet during daylight hours with both front and rear taillights on. My 3 boys had crossed safely across the street when the driver saw me. I was still in the roadway. The driver slammed on their brakes and then hit me. Fortunately, I was not badly injured. Had the driver failed to see me in time, I am certain my injuries would have been far worse or fatal. I'm a very, very experienced rider. I regularly ride on streets with traffic present, and I'm comfortable doing so. I'm teaching my boys on quiet side streets how to signal, make eye contact, and thank drivers. It's good for my kids to learn this, and it's good for drivers to see this behavior modeled from cyclists. There are many road crossings in Batavia that could be made safer for both pedestrians and cyclists. Of all the risky crossings, there's nothing scarier to me than crossing a 4-lane road with crossing lights. the safety of crossing lights on a 4-lane road is an illusion. A vehicle that stops in the first lane creates a blind spot for both the cyclist or pedestrian trying to cross, as well as vehicles in the second lane. This is repeated in lanes 3 and 4 from traffic going the other direction. Route 31 is an egregious example because the road has 4 narrow lanes of varied speeds and it bisects a residential area from downtown. We have to do better. Route 31 in Geneva now has 2 lanes, 1 in each direction with a turn lane in the center. The addition of an island in the middle of the 2 traffic lanes would allow pedestrians and cyclists to cross a single lane of traffic headed in one direction, safely pause mid-cross to check for traffic headed in the opposing direction before completing their crossing. Crossing lights at a crossing like this would be beneficial. Should a driver yield to a pedestrian, all traffic behind that vehicle in one lane of traffic would also stop rather than suddenly switching lanes if 4 lanes existed. Before I go, I'd like to add that I am both a driver and a cyclist. Neither group follows all the rules all the time, and I am no exception. In the end, however, cyclists, whether right or wrong, always lose to vehicles. Thank you.
Lori Lewis King.
Hi, so my name's Lori Lewis King. I'm at 1426 Haynes Court here in Batavia. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm so glad to see so many people present as part of the movement to try and bring more voices and people here today. Okay, so thank you. I'm super thrilled that it's being moved up to April. I think that is a huge improvement. So my family, we chose to move to Batavia in 2019 because of its family-friendly community, its support for local business, and its beautiful river views. My family has concerns about Route 31, like so many of us here today, not only from a pedestrian perspective, but also as motorists using and crossing Route 31 daily. So my family resides west of 31 near Storm Elementary. We cross over 31 regularly on walks, runs, and bike rides to access the river, farmers market, Quarry Beach, and numerous businesses and restaurants in downtown Batavia. I remember vividly last summer crossing 31 with our child at a pedestrian crossing. Another pedestrian was crossing with their bike 10 or so feet behind us. A driver traveling southbound on 31 was going above the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit and did not see the pedestrian behind us. It was a near miss and was my first encounter with realizing how dangerous 31 was. Now, with our child enrolled at camp in the Mill Creek Early Childhood Program at the 510 location, Batavia Avenue, it is a daily routine to use greater caution than usual when pulling into the Mill Creek parking lot. I look in my rearview mirror, watching the driver behind me to make sure they see my turn signals and brake lights. It is a real concern of being rear-ended by distracted drivers who are traveling above the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. I have 3 safety measures I believe are worth your consideration as we wait on the road diet that's coming in April. Super happy about that. I think it'd be helpful if we had decoy police cars present. That would make a major impact to slow drivers down. We've chatted as a group with Mill Creek about a radar program for city volunteers that was proven to be successful in other surrounding communities. It's one where volunteers hold the radar gun up, they capture the information, and then they keep their list and send it to the police that then send out the warnings in the mail. The third measure.
The neighboring communities that had been implemented in so that staff can research that?
Naperville.
Naperville? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Roselle? And Roselle also. And the third item would be implementing a crossing guard program for citywide volunteers at the Quarry Beach Crossing, at least for this summer. That would give peace of mind for so many kids that are using that to cross over. So I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm so happy that the road diet is being moved up to April. I think you guys have been listening, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here. So thank you.
Next is Laura King.
Just here.
Okay. Jerry King. Okay. Sonia Lewis King. Sing. Carrie Oak. Carmen Hampson.
I think I would like to just, I live at 404 Union Avenue, and I remember those crosswalks coming in and being panicked from that moment, knowing how often my kids cross there. And we've crossed there enough to see the near misses. The vehicles are getting larger, as we all know, more semi-trucks coming through, more SUVs, more potential for the obstruction between the first and second lane, the third and fourth lane, as we know. And I understand that IDOT supports these, but we're not helpless. We need to get rid of these crosswalks. It is not a safe option. It is not a safe option. And we can't just say it's IDOT. We have to do something else. We feel that there's no control, because if we don't use the light, someone stops. And then you're awkwardly standing there. Oh, go ahead, because you know that someone in the other lane might hit me. I'm very angry, very angry. I didn't plan on getting up today, but I have to let you guys know that. I'm extremely angry about this. And that is my primary concern. These crosswalks are not safe. Thank you.
Next is Corinne Pirog. Chairwoman Corinne Pirog.
Thank you. I'm Corinne Pirog. I come here both as a resident as well as a chairperson, so I'll start with being a resident. I live on the corner of Union and Jefferson, and I also cross that crosswalk on Union Street quite often. I'm an avid walker. I have a dog. I like to walk her a great deal. I, too, have almost been hit going across that street. It's incredibly dangerous, and I have been trained to drive as a youth in California, where in California you put your toe out as a pedestrian and people stop. It is a courtesy. It happens in many communities, but not here. Somehow Illinois has been exempt from that courtesy. So whatever we have to do to both instigate that courtesy, I think, is critical. Whether the yellow lights are a false sense of safety, I can't speak to that, but I do know that having the opportunity of crossing that street and almost being hit by a car with my dog is incredibly scary. And there are a great many children who live in my neighborhood who go to the quarry. You walk to the quarry. We have a walkable district. So we have to ensure the safety and the integrity of crossing Union. And now I'd like to shift my hat. I have a short email from KDOT because I reached out to them to let them know that I would be attending today. I want to assure you that Kane County, and Bill Tarver is here as well, Kane County board member. And I would like to thank all of our state representatives for being here as well. It's critically important to have their support. That our planners, our road planners, are in communication with IDOT, and we are very invested in the Illinois 31 road diet. We encourage the city and we applaud the city for getting this fast tracked. I think it's important. I think it'll be a great asset to you. But here's the word of caution from KDOT. This is going to help with the traffic calming to slow the speed down, however you decide to go from Main Street up to Wilson and a little bit further on, which I agree with all of you is a sincere issue, especially if you want to go to the farmer's market and want to cross the street, again, which we all have done, and we know is incredibly dangerous to do so. You run as quickly as you can. But it also, this road diet may reduce the number of gaps for traffic crossings as well as safe pedestrian crossings. So this is something we also have to be aware of. We will assure you that KDOT and Kane County will be a partner with you every step of the way. We're here to help. We're here to support you 100%. And you do have the Kane County Board Chair and your representative here, as we have several other representatives in Batavia who are here to assist you in whatever way we can. So please feel free to reach out to me, both as a resident as well as your chairman. So thank you.
David Scott.
I'm Dave Scott. I've been a resident of Batavia since 1979, but I've noticed over the last few years, especially since the pandemic and the construction on 31 between Wilson and Main Street, traffic speeds have accelerated quite a bit. I live between Jackson Street, on Jackson Street between Carlisle Road and Morton. And pulling out from those streets or even walking to crossing is very difficult because of the speed of traffic. Usually I drive my wife to work at the library every day, and it's, you might have to wait for 20 cars each direction doing not 5 miles an hour above the speed, but between 10 and 15 miles an hour above the speed limit. I did notice a little bit last week when they had started police presence, which has been lacking, and I think that would help to slow down the speed of the traffic and make these things more safe. But people don't see the crosswalk even if you're standing there. And I noticed north of Fabian, the reduction used to work okay, but it was getting people to narrow down. But because of the pandemic, people are trying to do, if you're doing the speed limit there at 40 miles an hour or going to 30, you can't even see their bumper, or you can only see their windshield on the back of you trying to push you along. So we need to get drivers to slow down, and then safety of people crossing too. A lot of the stuff that I've seen here. I'm also a friend of Emily White. Her son is in our Boy Scout troop, and it was tragic to see that happen. But also, another thing, my sister-in-law lives in Maine, and they've had that crosswalk thing. And people, way back when my nieces and nephews were here about 20, 25 years ago, someone stepped off in front of a state trooper and he had to lock him up. But just recently, a couple weeks ago, my sister-in-law's boss had a 24-year-old son. He was crossing a 2-lane highway where it was 25 miles an hour. Some person stopped, but the person coming by went into oncoming traffic at 60 miles an hour. And the only way his mother could identify him is by looking at his face, because the bicycle had been pushed completely through the body. So I know it's a little bit gory, but we need to slow people down. And more police presence, I think, would be good. Some of the ideas that I've heard tonight are really good too. But I think while we're getting this done, if we have a better police presence and get people to slow down, because I'm witnessing this because I'm driving that short stretch. I don't even turn left off of Carlisle Road to go north. I have to go only south, because coming around the corner, they're doing sometimes 45 to 50 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour speed zone. So thanks for your concern. Thank you.
Justine Rivard.
Just here, thanks.
Kim Harden.
Hello, I'm Kim Harden. I live off Green Pheasant Lane with my kids. Couldn't get a sitter. We recently had a rally a few days ago on the corner of Millview and 31, where Emily White was fatally struck. And there we gathered as a community and urged drivers to slow down and urged Batavians that came by to come here tonight. So I'm happy to see a lot of you that were there on Sunday. Thank you. And we all know that this stretch of road is dangerous. We know that the lanes are too narrow. We know that there's no shoulders and that the speed limits are too high. We all know this. Most of us support the road diet. I have personally been standing at the corner of Union and 31 wearing a crazy neon vest, holding a slow down sign and helping kids cross, coming home from the quarry at high peak traffic times. And I can speak from just being there a few times that a lighted crosswalk does not work at all on a 4-lane highway. Like previously stated, so many people just plow through unaware that it's actually activated and it's obstructed by larger vehicles. The only way that most of the people that went across safely between 4 and 5 when I'm there is because I'm there waving a huge sign with an orange neon vest. So what do we do in the meantime while we wait for IDOT to make the necessary changes? What can we do right now? I don't accept that our hands are tied until IDOT makes these safety measures. I don't accept that there's nothing else that we can do but sit on our hands and wait. What we need and what has been stated is more police presence. We need someone just sitting at Union. It could be an empty cop car for all I care with a mannequin in it. Someone will slow down when they see a cop car. The speeds are outrageous, especially on hot, sunny days in the summer when kids are coming home from the quarry, trying to get home to dinner. We can have more police presence there. I know we can. It's a cash cow for the city. We can give tickets out and we can be known, just like what Lisa said. We can be known as that city. Don't go through it and don't try to go fast. Cutting back the shrubs and limbs and high grass and plants for better visibility. It's a straight enough road, but there are some curves and hills that it's very hard to see when a lot of those crosswalks, especially at Millview. The last few days have just shaken this community to the core. And I just want to end by saying, Emily could have been any one of us. That driver that hit Emily could have been any one of us. Brady could have been any one of our kids. My kids are just not quite old enough to cross, but they're almost there. This one just learned to ride his bike. I'm not going to take him on the bike path. What I'm going to do is load up his bike. We're going to drive down and cross in our pickup truck, which is so redundant because we live like 2 blocks away. I'm not going to cross there until we have a better crosswalk. Thank you.
Ken White.
Good evening. My name is Ken White. I'm father to David White, father-in-law to deceased Emily White, grandfather to John, Micah, Caleb, Bowen, and Lily. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I was moved by a lot of the comments. And first of all, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you serving. I too have served on community and government boards and currently am serving as well. And it can be a thankless job, as you know, and especially when people come up here and complain to you. I don't see complaining tonight. I see moving to action. Your comment, Ms. Beck, thank you so much. There are no proposals that shouldn't be considered. All proposals should be considered. Just like I'm also a consultant, and when people say, well, this is the way we've always done things. No, it's not the way you've always done things. We need to do better. We need to make a difference. I reside in Houston, Texas, and Durango, Colorado. I, too, like many of the others that have spoken here tonight, am an avid cyclist and an avid hiker. In Houston, as I'm riding around, I see, unfortunately, a lot of memorial bikes painted white, strapped against street corners. And, you look at that and you pause and you say, wow, that represents a life. This one that's out here now, I just want to thank the community, whoever was responsible for putting that up there. That's a start. That's a start as for not only memorial to Emily, but for action. And now it's hard when you go by it and you know that bicycle represents a loved one, a former loved one. You've heard a lot of comments about the intersection and hiking there. Since I've been here for the last 3 weeks, I came the day after Emily was hit. And I have walked those trails quite a bit along the river. It's a lovely walk. Emily loved those trails. But that street corner is not good. And while I don't want to encourage everybody to get into an unsafe situation, I would encourage you to go try to walk that across that street. Yesterday, I waited nearly 4 minutes before it was safe. And I still didn't think it was safe. I ran across the street. Okay. I think the road diet plan, while I've only been in this community now 3 weeks solid, but I have visited here over the years. You have a wonderful community. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Unfortunately, the Chicago winters drove me away. But otherwise, this is a lovely community. You have lovely people here. Batavia is a wonderful community. Don't make this community martyred for accidents and for things that don't get done. Take action. In Durango, it's a lot of times people call that the biking capital of North America, mountain bikes. We have a street similar to Route 31 that goes through Durango, and Colorado laws are a little different. Texas laws, unfortunately, the cars have the right of way. People do not have the right of way. In Colorado, people have the right of way, and if you get hit while you're in a crosswalk, you're in big trouble. But this main road that goes through Durango has an intersection there where you push a button and there's a stoplight that when somebody wants to cross, it's approximately about 60 seconds that you wait for it. The stoplight comes on and everybody comes to a stop while maybe one person or several people cross that road. It works. They've been doing it now for many years. I recognize that nobody from IDOT is here today, and that's unfortunate, but you do have, thank you, state senators, you have county commissioners, you have congressmen, men and women, and you have you counselors right here. Don't say you can't do things, because you can. And do take action. You can put a stoplight, whether it's not a stoplight all the time, but when somebody wants to cross, make everybody come to a complete stop. Another thing I would encourage while I've been driving around is on Randall Road, going north on Randall Road towards Geneva. There's a hill there, and as you're approaching it, there's a flashing light as you go over the hill to alert you that there is going to be a stoplight at the other end. This is a hill coming north on 31. You might want to consider that proposal as well, to put a flashing light that there is something coming up. Stop, beware, watch. Somebody mentioned a tunnel system. I've seen that. That's a very effective thing. As long as in Houston we have a lot of overpasses where you can hike, you can walk, and ride your bike going over there. So with that, I would say, I take you at your word. Don't consider all proposals, but do take action. Don't let Emily's life go in vain, and just remember how many more lives need to be lost or injured before you do take action. Thank you for your time.
Kelly Makota? Amy Moore? Ilana Manzak?
I'm not Alana, I'm Dan, but I'm coming up with her. Many of you know who we are. We are the owners of Mill Creek Early Childhood Program. So take that mental image of, a few kids and multiply it by a lot more. We have 130 kids walking up and down that street, and there's other schools involved. So I think we have a big population of children that are young up to kindergarten, up and down 31 continuously. Now, I will give credit to the Batavia Police Department, and I will say that we have seen a huge increase in presence recently in our parking lot at 130 South Batavia Avenue, pulling over lots of people. So thank you. Something we talked about, decoy police cars. I don't know if that's an option, but I know that when I see a police car, usually I'm not speeding, but I slow down. And I think it would make a huge impact if there were cars on each end, sticking out, move them around once a week. Doesn't have to be manned necessarily, but I think it would be a huge help to what we're trying to do, and that is something we talked about last week. Another thing we talked about was that radar program. I'm the one that brought that up. I'm happy to share more details with you on that. I have a link. I have all sorts of things that I can show you. I'm happy to volunteer to do it. I'll sit in front of our building at 510 South Batavia Avenue. Who's seen our dinosaur? Anybody seen our dinosaur? All right, I put that up with my wife last week with a big old sign that says slow down, and that's right before the crossing. We're going to do whatever we can do. We got a safety vest we're going to put on it too to make it more visible. And I'll sit right there. He's got a hair dryer. I'll take the real gun, and I'll send you license plates. But that program works. It seems to work very well. Obviously, I can't issue tickets, but I can take a picture of the license plate, pass it along, and you can send a very stern warning saying you were observed speeding. Happy to do it. I can share that with you later. I think the biggest thing for us, and we've heard it tonight, and we don't need to go over and over again, but I think reducing the speed is huge, and I think that's the one way to solve this problem in the immediate, because that's what we need to do, because we have kids, it's summer, we're on the streets, we want to cross the street safely, we need to find a way to slow the cars down. I think that'll solve the problem the best we can.
I was wondering a couple things just to help keep children safe crossing the street. I know that when I'm walking on trails, sometimes I see a stop sign when I'm walking or if I'm biking. I was curious if we don't put not a stop sign for the street, but a stop sign for the children or the people crossing the street on the sidewalk, like at the corner, a visual just to be like, hey kids, hey adults, stop. Don't just go. Like I said, anything do to help. Kids see a stop sign, they know what that is, they grow up, that's some of the first things they see. Another question was if we're considered a school zone, can we be in a school zone? We have KinderCare, we have us at 510, at 130. The churches also have preschools within them. We have a half-day program too. I was trying to read the state rules. Those are a lot to read. But if we could have a school zone, the tickets and the cost of that is higher. There's more consequences for that. And lowering the speed there, it slows down even up to that crosswalk and also at Wilson and 31. Just so you know, we're here to advocate for the kids and the families. We have a lot of Batavia families. We have families sitting in here that have children at our program. We have a lot of businesses, owners that have children in our program. We love to be part of this community. We love the children being out and about. We walk down 31 all the time. We cut over, we cut into Water Street as soon as we can. But in the meantime, we do have to cross. We want to get to those businesses. We love being a part of it. So anything we can do to help allow us to continue doing what we're doing in this community. I mean, I see a lot of you walking around. I see the mayor walking around all the time, so I'm sure he knows too. But
anything we can do just to help slow people down and make it safer to people to cross. I love the idea of like community crossing guards. I don't know how insurance plays into part, but even just the hours of the quarry, I think would be beneficial for making the families feel more comfortable that their kids can cross safely. And then also possibly brighter colors, brighter signs. I don't know if that's something we could do at the moment. And then just, you know, we want to keep doing this. We want, again, our kids safe. My teachers are out there, the 2-lane, you heard this over and over, but we wait. We stand there and we wait until all 4 of the lanes stop. We have people, we've had lovely interactions with people that are mad that we wait, but we stand there and we wait till all 4 stop. And we have a rule of teachers the first one on, teachers the last one off. But I also don't want my teachers getting hurt either. We are going to put our lives in the line for our children, but at the same time, it's the safety for my teachers, our children, and the families in the community. So, thank you.
Moving back to the council discussion. Tim?
Can I say something? Yeah, we added names. I didn't know there was a sign up sheet.
Okay, sure. Do you want to?
Yeah, come on.
My name is Rachel McKillop, and I live on McKee Street. I'm really sorry for the unfortunate loss of Emily. Brady is a dear friend to our family. My son is often riding around on bikes in that crew of kids with wiffle balls, bats in their backpacks, and fishing poles headed to the river or going to the quarry. I really don't want to stop seeing kids doing that in our community. I have to agree with Carmen. The crosswalks do not work. There have been several times that I have literally wanted to take out my phone and just record how people don't stop. And that even includes police officers in our town. Like, I've literally stood there and people do not stop. I'm all about the road diet. I think that's a great plan for our community, but I think as execution, like moving forward, we need to get rid of those crosswalks. They just do not work. We've had kids hit on McKee Street. I've been hit on my bicycle attempting to use the crosswalk. And I just think they need to go away. I don't see any form of lights helping people see that there's a crosswalk. I'm even trying to think in my mind, like, is there any other place on Route 31 towns that have those crosswalks? I'm thinking as even a car driver, like in that mentality, like
in Geneva it does.
On Route 31?
Yeah.
Is it like going to the bike trail then?
It's just a little bit north of the train track to take it to the trail off of the downtown, off of 3rd.
But you can't turn right on that street, right? Like, I think, or left. Like, you can't turn left.
Correct.
Like, there's some kind of...
I believe you're correct on that.
Yeah.
I believe that drivers can only pull in one direction and turn right, but you do have the traffic heading north and south.
And as far as I'm someone that I try to walk. In my family, we try to drive as least amount as possible. I ride my bike to work. And what I've found personally is the safest place for me to cross on a bike is Main Street. Do I feel completely in my mind, or I'd be promoting kids necessarily to do that all the time? I don't know yet. But I've just been really trying to brainstorm. But for me, that's the light systems are what is the safest, on a bicycle at least. And I guess that's all I have to add to all of that.
Hi, Danetta McGrath. I live on Elm Street.
And I have sent, I just want it on record that I have sent information on Geneva, Naperville, Aurora, and North Aurora, that all of their speed limits, residential, are 25 posted, 25 and less posted otherwise. That's residential. It was brought to my attention. I think Bill sent something to someone, and their response was, I don't see how that's going to make a difference. They come off of 31 onto Elm Street, and it is posted 30. They're not going 30. They're going 35. They're going 40. Put it at 25. Let them go 30. So I just wanted it noted that we also need to slow down residential. I have 20 children on my block, 20. One just learned how to ride his bike. I think a couple others are on their way to learn how to ride their bike. And we have to put up with 30, 35, 40 on a residential street. Thank you.
Can I pile on here too a little bit? I didn't know we needed to sign up either.
We'll take your remarks. I guess I'll just say this much. We definitely appreciate the input, but all I would say is moving forward, let's just make sure any additional testimony that we take is new information.
Yeah, I'll be very quick.
Can you give your name first?
My name is Jim Sikta. I live on Harrison Street on the west side. Growing up in the city, I never thought I would hear traffic noise. When I moved to the west side, like I hear coming from McKee on a regular basis. We need to take our blinders off. This problem is not exclusive to Route 31. This is an epidemic problem throughout the state of Illinois, but our worry is obviously Batavia. I coming from the east side, Hart Road, Redant Road, Pine, and now I see McKee. These have all become thoroughfares where people exceed the speed limit constantly. Something has to be done outside of just Route 31. This is a huge issue. Walking up and down McKee on a regular basis now, I can't believe the speeds people do, from stop sign to stop sign. So at the end of the day, I jokingly say, welcome to Batavia. We ticket speeders. It's time we got to do something. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead.
Frank Downey, 1228 Wind Energy Pass. I here represent Troop 43 and a scout whose mother was killed. We can't rest. Whatever we do now, we have to continue until no pedestrian or passenger is killed on 31 or injured. We have a busy summer coming up with kids going to the quarry and everybody going to the Park District. So we have to do things now. I think police presence will help, but we can't wait until the diet in April. We have a long period until then. We don't need to see any more residents hurt. Thank you.
I would tell you to bring back to your boys, as an Eagle Scout at Troop 21, having been through this experience, having lived in town here, the best thing that the boys could do is to talk to their neighbors. And certainly my experience in scouting taught me how to speak publicly. We know that some 90% of the offenders who are speeders, who are caught in any of the stings that are done or any of these traffic studies, are the neighbors. The person lives in the actual neighborhood. So it would be very effective to do a knocking on doors campaign. And say, I live in this neighborhood and I'm asking you to slow down. And here's why I'm asking you to slow down. That would be a very good first start. But we can't rely on putting a police officer in front of every interaction between a car and a person. So we have to teach good judgment to the youth on how to use phones correctly, how to have the nerve to call out their friends or their own mother. Hey, mom, stop texting. Things like that. It starts at the home, and you have some of the strongest foot soldiers available. So I would encourage you definitely to deploy them.
Thank you. Yes, we, as a troop right now, we are here to support Bowen and his family, but we are looking forward to helping solve this problem and be present in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'll turn back to the committee for further discussion. You were collecting, I don't know, we're looking for what types of milestones do we need to hit? What do we need to do to move this forward?
Well, here's what I heard from the crowd, and so add anything to my list that I may have missed from the public comment, and then I've got a couple suggestions to add to the list as well. The public education campaign for the distracted driver. Updating some landscaping, especially over by the Les Aarons crossing where the grasses are too tall and bicyclists and pedestrians at that crossing can't be seen from further up the road.
And we have to draw a distinction between public lands and private lands.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's Forest Preserve right there. More enforcement, decoy police officers, manned cars. A radar program for the community volunteers to help with sending out warnings, similar to Naperville Roselle. Getting rid of the rapid flashing beacons, keeping the rapid flashing beacons, we heard both. Creating a culture of courtesy, which is how I phrased Corinne's comment, which I really, really enjoy. Some sort of a system with red lights that force people to stop, that is activated by people at the crosswalk. Some sort of a yellow flashing light to let people know that a crossing is coming up, similar to what they have on Randall Road. They also have that at Mooseheart as well. On 31, just up the road. Hair dryers, I did flag hair dryers because that's not a crazy idea. I have actually seen that in examples of street blogs around the country where people stand out with hair dryers, and it has been proven as an effective way to slow people down because drivers don't know what they're looking at. So yeah, a stop sign for folks that are using the crossing. So people on foot or on bike, a stop sign to alert them that they need to slow down and be aware of their surroundings. A school zone. That did kind of baffle me. I hadn't actually thought of that, of how many schools are in this stretch, and they're not, I don't know if they're not eligible for a school zone sign, or if it's only a public school, that rationale is curious to me. Expanding this conversation just in general to include all residential streets, and I have some thoughts about that, and reducing the speed limit on residential streets to 25. And addressing all of the thoroughfares that we know are problematic hotspots. And I also wrote down your knocking on doors campaign there at the last comment. Did I miss anything?
The island, a pedestrian island.
Pedestrian islands. I did flag something in Steve Erickson's response or comments as well, knowing First Street that if IDOT approves the road diet as it currently has, with the main, the downtown not being considered, then First Street, where a lot of us cross, would not be affected, and the incidents that he and his boys had would still be a problem. Yeah. Yes, I thought I said that. Enforcement, decoy, or manned cars.
What was it that you said after the hot spots, to patrol more at the hot spots? What was right after that?
Right after the hotspots, the radar program for volunteers.
Having IDOT present for these type of discussions?
Yes. Well, and that was kind of my thought, was to kind of create a list that we can somehow, if we can't get IDOT here for a future meeting, to have a conversation that hashes out after we figured out what we internally want to push. If we can't get IDOT here to a public meeting, then making sure a group of us is getting over there to talk to them.
Did you have on your list crossing guard program?
Oh, I missed it. School zone and crossing guard, so I missed it. I didn't circle it. Crossing guard program, absolutely.
So that is a very, very good list. It is a very comprehensive list. I'm not being dismissive of any of the ideas on that list, except for one. We have discussed speed limit many times at the committee level. I would be interested in hearing any change in philosophy on this. And Janetta, going back to when Bill was even serving here, we discussed this. It just opens the pool of people we can issue tickets to. it doesn't mean that they're going to drive slower. It's kind of like that beacon. Gives you this false sense of security. Sure, speed limit is 25, fine. Well, everyone can be taken to death, but that does not change behavior.
You get a much steeper fine, possible arrest for doing 40 and a 25 versus.
I have a lead foot. I had a much bigger lead foot. Do you know what the speed limit is on Lakeshore Drive, north? It's 40.
Yeah,
it's a felony to get pulled over there. That was it was a shock to me. I needed to get an attorney to represent me. It was a jarring experience for me. And I was going as fast as traffic was, a little bit slower because I was the facade who couldn't keep up with everybody. That's why I got my ticket.
So Dan, I challenge you to come and just park in our driveway, and I would like you to see how fast cars are going. I challenge anybody here. And I would love to have a
So we can't have people talk from the audience because this is recorded, and so nobody on BATV can hear anything that the audience says. So if you'd like to speak, raise your hand, and Dan's the chairman, he'll call on you.
Thank you. And I will definitely I'll chat with you offline for sure. I'm sorry, sir.
One quick thought when it comes to speeding and the road diet speaking just to 31, not necessarily residential streets. The way 31 is currently set up, it is designed to go faster, it seems. So I don't know that reducing the speed limit in the current design. However, when we go to the road diet, it will be a completely different story. It will feel like a road that is set up for drivers to go slower on. So I think that we would likely have success with slowing people down with that, and it's traffic calming to begin with.
And IDOT has committed to doing the speed study before and after it's implemented.
So our next steps then are how do we?
I just have a couple items I'd like to maybe add to Abby's list.
Please.
I know that Susan Russo had sent out an email, a side path, and there is one in Aurora. I would love to see that up and down 31, but I know that is like it's a big dream because that's a big investment, but I'd like to get that on record as a side path. It incorporates not only a specific area for walkers and bikers, but also signs for us to remind us, like, you can't just ride through here, you have to stop at this road. So the side path is one of them. I always find, especially as we're considering this road diet, something that, that Abby's kind of educated us on is making sure that we have trees there. Because as you have trees, it kind of closes in the road a little bit and maybe makes you want to slow down a little bit. I will say, probably one of the most frightening rides I've had this year so far is riding from Geneva to Batavia on Route 31. I had a car that was going well over 30 miles an hour. It was probably going 60, and did not give me 3 feet next to me. So even though we may do these mitigations, as a rider, it is still very challenging. It comes down to education for everyone, having mirrors to make sure of what's coming up behind you. I look at that all the time. I'm not even riding the road half the time. I'm looking at my mirror. So I appreciate everybody's comments, and I'm not going to poo-poo any of it. I poo-pooed my own, but we got a lot of great suggestions. I was like sitting there going, wow, these are some great ones.
Yeah, I was just going to, again, thank everybody for coming up. I think, everyone's excited for 2 reasons. Number one, I think this needs to be done. I think it's needed to be done for a long time. And number 2, we've unfortunately had some recent tragedies that have brought it more to light. That being said, I agree with Alderman Beck that we need to understand that everything's on the table. I work with IDOT personally all the time, and IDOT's a mess. So my ask would be to stay hyper-focused on, because sometimes we can get on, and I'll do the same thing. Again, it's an exciting moment, but we get on tangents where, to Alderman Solfa's point, we don't have control, and it's not worth going down this path. What I want to see is immediate impact. And I think we heard that tonight from our constituents is, what are we doing now? We get the fixed factors, right, of IDOT and the road not being ours or whatever. So I personally, and my small brain, I didn't think about it, but the crossing guard idea. I mean, just the sign that one woman brought up, the giant, so these could be homemade crossing guard signs. I don't know what the police bandwidth is on it, but for maybe farmers market day, we have, police doing crosswalk, something where right now, even in the time period until April, which again, phenomenal, we got that picked up. That's incredible. That makes me feel a lot better. But I know our constituents, want to see that immediate, even, signs on our sidewalks. Do we own the sidewalks? Then all right, let's erect some signs up there on, tall poles or whatever, or a sign campaign on the light poles, or anything to bring awareness and articles, whatever. Obviously, again, we know the fixed deal with IDOT. They're a pain. It's going to be a pain. There's really no way around it. I hate to say that for everybody. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's the lovely state we live in. So yeah, I just want to stay hyper-focused on what can be done now so that people get the sense that we are doing something, which we are, but not everyone understands some of the constraints, and they want to feel that sense of safety in their community. So I think implementing something like that right off the bat would be awesome. But again, I don't know the legalities of that and stuff with, and the bandwidth with our police department and stuff, but I'd love to discuss something.
I was going to say, there's things we just can't deviate from, no matter how much. But
So the police department actually has investigated the crossing guard program with a company that does that professionally, because we would want people to make sure that they're trained, that they're bonded, that, that they're going to accept liability for if something goes wrong. And so we did price that at Union Street because we have so many, kids crossing to go to and from the quarry. It would cost for the hours of operation for the quarry and for the dates that it will be open for the rest of the year, approximately $13,000.
Well, let me ask you this. What's stopping our citizens
Nothing.
from
They've been out there doing it, and they can do it, but it's not
exactly.
going to be a city organized program, because then we are saying these people are safe to help people cross. And in
Understood.
fact, Kim contacted us about her volunteer program, and we told her, no, nobody's going to stop you from going out there and performing that service for the members of your community.
Right.
And then the other thing you had talked about was a sign program. I've been contacted by the school district, and they're organizing, the school district, library, park district, and city are collaborating on a sign
giant banner
program
across the whole street.
The sign, the
Just to kick
signs
it off.
have, we have the rules about the signs. We don't want them in the parkway, because when they're in the parkway, has the opposite effect. It's blocking people's line of sight when they're trying to watch traffic. So the signs, we say, put on the inside of the sidewalk toward the property. But I hope that you will see many, many signs going up encouraging people to drive safely, because Batavia loves their families.
Yeah, we definitely need to slow people down, and we need to educate people. I'm in the school that I think bringing the speed limit down is something, and I think people start getting hit with steeper fine. I'm in total agreement. I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth. The 17-year-old me would not be saying this, but hand out the tickets and make it known that you're not flying down 31. I love what Jennifer said. Go in either direction. You got Kirk, you got Randall. That's your main high-speed area. This is your putz-along road to hit every little town and sightsee, and for residents. So that's how I see it. But again, I just want to stay focused on something that can be done in the immediate short term, something. Thank you.
A few things to add to my own list is, in the short term, addressing the condition of the actual crosswalks on 31 at all these intersections that we're talking about, that the paint is faded in some areas, they need to be refreshed. And then talking to IDOT, as we're talking about remarking the street anyway, about widening and making those more visible. So either the crosswalk gets wider or there's extra paint added on either side, or we mark up the intersection just so the intersection itself is a just more visible thing. Right now, you just can breeze through there and barely even see that you're crossing side streets, right? Like they're kind of sneaky, they're kind of hidden. Everything kind of blends in at one level, and something to draw attention to. You are in a crosswalk. You could have people coming at you. Please slow down. In addition to the painting of the crosswalks and painting of the areas around the crosswalks, the corner radiuses along that street are too big. They need to be tightened up. That can be accomplished short-term with paint, if IDOT would allow that. Long-term, if we're going to not do bike lanes down that, then doing bulb outs like we did in downtown Batavia years ago. And thank you so much to past councils and staff that pushed through getting bulb outs and curb extensions in downtown. We need to shorten those distances if we're not gonna, I still have fears that after the road diet, traffic is going to move too quickly on that wide stretch of road. So something to shrink the distance between point A and point B of what a pedestrian or cyclist has to do to cross. And what's lucky is that there is a bill that has passed the Senate, Senate Bill 2278, that addresses the turning radiuses, that on state highways, if I'm understanding and reading this correctly, the turning radiuses had to be for a 65-foot truck in the past. Now, municipalities are going to get some control over saying, no, we don't want trucks crossing here, so we're going to tighten that radius, and we will then get to dictate where we want traffic and where we don't. That, however, is still sitting on Pritzker's desk. So another short-term thing we could do as a city is to write a letter in support, like please sign this so that when our road diet goes into effect, we've got some control over these corners as well.
Abby,
yeah.
Real quick, could you say that bill number and
2278, Senate Bill 2278. Well, let me see if I forgot anything. I'm all for reducing speed limits. I'm all for more tickets. I'm all for using those tickets to fund more infrastructure for bicyclists and pedestrians in ways that actually will slow traffic, because I agree, I want slower speed limits. I want more enforcement. I know that Chief and his staff can't be everywhere at once. They're not going to be the ones that necessarily solve this problem.
They can be, if we make a philosophical statement that says that we would like more enforcement.
Totally.
We can hire more people. We can hire as many as we want.
And in my head, so if anybody's ever traveled abroad and ridden a bike or walked around Amsterdam, the Dutch philosophy, I know I've said this at council before, that in urban areas or in their cities, in their residential areas, the police do not enforce speeds. If people are speeding in their cars in these areas, that is a design problem, and that goes back to city council to fix and city planners to fix. There's a speed limit and there's a design speed. All of our roads are designed to go too fast. And I think something we could do is, find an example. Like if folks know of examples nearby in other cities where traffic goes slow, this is an appropriate 35-mile-an-hour zone. People are going 35 miles an hour. People are out enjoying it. You know, it's a mix. It's an 880 cities. People that are 8, people that are 80. Everybody is able to freely move about this safely and comfortably. Find us examples and let's do a field trip. And let's look at how the design of those streets differ from the design of our streets. And then let's start investing in those design changes, because we can invest and prioritize cars or people. We can't prioritize both. We can do speed or safety, and we cannot prioritize both. We have to choose one or the other. We've been prioritizing cars for a long time. Nobody's taking anybody's car away, but in order to make this safe and comfortable, we have to start prioritizing people and cars. Or, sorry, people and bikes.
To your point, ticket writing is a symptom of all of this. We did make a philosophical statement just a few years ago in committee. We had the opportunity to hire an enforcement person on Kirk Road for truck traffic. They would have to write something like 40 tickets a day or something like that to pay for themselves. We couldn't afford to hire that person, so we ended up not doing that. But that's definitely something for us to discuss in terms of philosophy.
I had a quick question, because again, I'm just thinking about IDOT and the potential long-term, even with the road diet, because I do think that even after the road diet, we're going to want some sort of alternate route to cross over 31. I know we can't touch Route 31, but can we go over it or under it? Do we know?
No, because
Without the
we would,
information.
they've got rights above and below.
Okay.
Hey, right, Sam. Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just, as the mayor, I'd just like to, number one, thank everyone for coming tonight. I think the healthy, very healthy and informational discussion was held here. I guess what I'd like to suggest is that, you know, we've had a lot of ideas put on the table. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation and action. And I would like to suggest that this committee maybe set a date, maybe not tonight, but 3-4 months down the road when we get some of this stuff in gear and see how it's going, and then invite everybody back down here to have another conversation about what you're seeing in Batavia and how you're seeing it and what seems to be working and what doesn't seem to be working. Because I think, you know, we've had over 2 hours of conversation now just about, and, you know, a lot has been said, a lot of very positive things have been said about some very bad things. And as a city council, you need to, you know, respond to this and do it. But I mean, I don't want this to be a one-night thing that everybody came and said what they had to say and then nothing gets done about it. So I think we want to focus on this and, you know, give ourselves a mandate that we're going to invite everybody back. And in the meantime, we're going to try to put some programs in place that will work to get this thing going.
As we discussed before, I've always been an advocate of the subcommittee to report back to us on progress. We should consider at the committee level how to set up milestones so that we're being successful, achieving the easy targets as quickly as possible to have some actual results. But let's please add that to the list. Anyone else? Leah.
So can I ask that on the next agenda be that crossing guard for us to discuss what that cost? And then also, just for short term, I think Abby brought this up, but it's on the city that we can brighten up the paint for the crosswalks across.
No?
We can't even brighten them up.
I'm sorry, we do have the maintenance, so maybe Gary.
I'm thinking specifically at Millview and 30 and 31.
We can refresh any markings on Route 31.
Okay. I would request then that we look at that and try to get that freshened up as soon as possible.
All right, moving then on to item number 10, Resolution 23-84-R, authorizing execution of an agreement with Kane County to construct a sidewalk, Madison Street to Church Street, for the Safe Routes to School funding to pay for the city's portion of the construction. And who has that?
That'd be me, Dan, here,
sorry.
as city service, but I'll let Rahat take it. This is, I think, a great opportunity we need to take advantage of, but I don't want to steal your thunder, Rahat. Go for it.
Do you want me to wait for everybody to leave?
I wish they'd stay here to listen to it.
Okay, so in my memo, I outlined that we applied for this grant early 2022, like in January 2022, but we have not heard from them for a while. I got a call 3 weeks ago saying that they have money to give it to us so that we can build the sidewalk gaps on Madison Street east of Prairie and also on Church Street towards the dead end of that street. So there are some sidewalk gaps. There are some sidewalks that exist, but there are some gaps also. So this was really to fill those gaps. Unfortunately, we did not budget the money for this year because we didn't know. But we budgeted money for Safe Route to School, that you guys know that on Republic and Morton and Webster Street, we are going to do Safe Route to School sidewalk. We thought we'll be able to construct that, but we now know that we'll not be able to construct that this year. It will most likely be next year. So what I outlined here is that you reappropriate that money, not the entire portion, but whatever is needed for this project, and matching fund reappropriate that fund for this matching fund and let us sign the agreement with Kane County and build this sidewalk. I should also mention that while we looked at this sidewalk about a week and a half ago. We were walking. Both these streets are dead-end streets, so they kind of go and don't go anywhere. So one of the residents that live on Church Street, I'm not sure whether she's here today. Oh, you are, okay.
But I have a lot of questions.
Okay. So she did mention to me that it's a dead-end street while you are building sidewalks. So we told her that our policy is to build sidewalk on one side of the street, and this is in the CDBG area. So the money has to be spent within this area, and typically they want to see where they have awarded the money. That's where the money is being spent. So I invited her that if she has concern, that she should come and tell that to the council. Any question? I'm ready to answer. Oh, on the timeline, it's a short fuse. We have to design it. Agreement is the easy part. Laura will just sign it. Then we'll design it, go out for bid. County has some requirements on the bidding process. They want us to reach out to certain contractors that is in their list. And also they review the packet. They review the entire bidding packet, make sure that it meets all the federal requirement because it's a federal fund flowing through the county. And then they will ultimately approve the contract, like you will approve it. And then we'll have to spend the money by November 30th of this year, construct the project, and we want to do that by November 30th and bill county for the portion that they are going to participate in by December 31st.
Thank you, Rahat. I believe this is a great thing that we've got additional money coming in. We need to take advantage of it. Help us. Maybe it makes it 99.9 years for sidewalk plan. Any other discussion on the council?
One more thing, if I can add.
Sure.
Both these locations were in the sidewalk and bike path and ped policy that you adopted a few months ago. So they were in the list. They are not. I think they are number 3 and number 5, not necessarily they are number 1 or 2. So they are in the list.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other discussion, unless I'm missing something, I would recommend we send for positive recommendation to the council, Resolution 23084R, approving a resolution to execute an agreement with Kane County to construct sidewalk on Madison Street, Church Street, and reappropriate safe route to school funding to pay for the city's portion of the construction.
Second.
First, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, call a roll. Or do we do voice vote?
The resident want to speak?
Oh, certainly.
Miller.
Aye. Oh, Malay.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay.
I'm sorry. 2 M's.
Okay, you were?
He's absent.
He's gone. Surround.
Aye.
Vogelsinger. Aye. Miller.
Aye.
Lancy.
Aye.
Beck. Aye. Transit. Silva.
Aye.
Ferreira. Aye. Lehman. Aye. Ayazi.
Aye.
Is that 11? 11 yes, no no's, 2 absent. And that, can that be consent agendas? No.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Moving on to item number 11. This is Resolution 23-82-R, is a policy on the voting method that the City Council uses to select candidates for council vacancies. Welcome back.
Yeah, this just formalizes what you talked about the prior week. It basically says that when providing your advice and consent, you'll be using the board account method. It'll be 0 points for the person you select as first place, 1 point for the person you select as second, 2 points for third, et cetera, et cetera. And you'll eventually select the candidate who goes with the least amount of points. So this is pretty straightforward, just sort of formalizes what you all discussed the prior week.
This is what we all, well, not everybody agreed on everything, but I think it was almost majority accepted that we should just keep it the way it was, that we've been doing it.
8 to 4 that evening.
And again, to reiterate, this advances the, not necessarily
The least objectionable
the
candidate.
least objectionable candidate. Which is among the reasons why, to be fair, why His Honor has asked the council to make the decision for him. Someone who can hit the ground running, so. Any additional discussion? No?
I do a roll call after we get the motion.
I would make the motion that we send this to council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
You would start with Chanzit, who made the motion.
Which was a terrible name to have as a seventh grader. I'm just kidding. Aye.
Solfa?
Aye.
Barrera?
It's Baron.
Barron?
That's okay.
Aye. Lehman?
Aye.
Ayazi?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Saran?
Aye.
Vogelsinger?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Lansky?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm moving then to project status.
Okay, well, we've talked about a lot tonight. It was a pretty exciting day, but I've got a few other things here. We have a new administrative assistant in our Community and Economic Development Department who started on Monday, June 5th. And Dave's Hot Chicken is a new freestanding fast food restaurant in the Jewel parking lot, which is under building permit review. The fire department sent Truck 2 to participate in displaying the American flag from the ladder truck, along with North Aurora Fire Department for K-9 Hudson's funeral procession. And we have received a letter of gratitude from the Caneville Fire Protection District for the generous donation of Engine 4 that we gave to them. Our police department is accepting applications for new hires and lateral transfers for the position of police officer. If you visit the city website or contact the police department, you can get more information on that. And that's all that I have, unless anybody has any questions for me. Yes.
I have a question, and it's related to our last discussion, but do we have anything on our books that is similar to Geneva's speed control policy or Naperville's traffic calming toolkit?
No, we do not.
And if the council approves, is that something maybe the subcommittee, which is my next question, could bring back for discussion as well as part of this? And then who wants to be on the subcommittee? Anybody? Chanzit? Sarah? Anybody else? Okay.
We can do what we want.
What's that?
We can do what we want. It's at the policy.
Cool. Sounds good.
So, yeah. Anyone else? Moving on to.
I have another. Is that where we're going? I don't know if council is aware. I know Police Chief Mazes, I was talking with a business owner today along Redant in our industrial area. They're dealing with a lot of, I guess, theft out of their mailboxes. A question was asked today, is there something preventing them from removing their mailboxes and having their mail dropped off inside of their businesses? Do we know?
I think it's a matter that has to be taken up with the post office.
Okay, I'll let them know.
They can rent a box.
Locked mailboxes too.
Well, they're getting smashed as well as theft, so that's why I was wondering. I figured it was something that had to do with the post office, but I didn't know if there was something the city required as well. Okay.
I would just say that that's something that's being experienced all throughout the Chicagoland area, and our investigations unit has been in touch with U.S. Postal
members, trying to work on identifying people that may be involved in those situations.
Thank you.
You're welcome to come smash my mailbox and take my mail.
Anyone else with others?
I have one. It leads up to the next, to number 14. I have a recommendation that the interviews for the candidates be conducted with only one candidate in the room at a time.
Any particular rationale for that?
I have reasons for that, and my reasoning is, I have reasons for it, yes. I've explained it to some other members already, as well as.
So we can make sure that we remain transparent. Do you believe that there's any conflicts, or do you believe that there'd be?
I believe it would be a more efficient process and get better answers from the candidates.
Yeah, it's certainly up to the committee. I would certainly argue that the interaction between the candidates is extremely valuable information.
I believe that you have a lot of mimicking and minor bird answers when you have all the candidates being asked a question, and the first one that says anything, then even through no fault of the candidates themselves, can be copied and mimicked, and I've seen that happen before. So I believe that the better way to have it done is where you have each candidate individually being asked questions, and they can freely give their own answers without any outside influences.
Fair enough. I would say I lost the vote that night. I initially sought the appointment to council because of the interactions that happened between the council members. Of the three of us, one of the candidates endorsed one of the other candidates, and I lost some votes. It was interesting to watch how it went down, but I'll do whatever the committee wants. I think that interaction between the candidates is actually pretty invaluable, and when someone keeps rubber stamping or saying, I say what that person said, that actually speaks volumes. But I'll certainly do whatever the group would like. You take a straw poll. I'm not trying to fight you.
That's why I'm bringing it up as others.
Yeah.
I just think, I personally believe this will be a better method.
Yeah, I think if it was in a debate format, it might be a little different, but I tend to agree with Alderman Solfa that depending on the order of how they go, it could be beneficial to one or the other unless it is an open debate.
Yes. We definitely don't treat it as a debate. We definitely go candidate by candidate, having a different chance to start. And
I don't know. I mean, my first thought was that this is the way that all the League of Women Voters forums go. Every forum that I've ever been a part of, the Daily Herald, questionnaire was done this way.
the one who did the homework, it's obvious who did the homework when they're all three together.
Correct. And so I can tell you how they interview for judges, and the way they interview for judges is they don't have you all in the same room. They do each one individually.
Are you saying this is the way we always did it?
Oh, I did.
Honestly, if you interview for almost any job, you're gonna
And the fact that we agree on that should say something.
Almost any other job, you're going to be by yourself.
You're not going to be with all the other candidates.
Almost any other job. Things are changing.
Take a straw poll.
I'm taking a straw poll.
Yeah.
All right, I'll start it out. All in favor of my proposal? Aye.
4, 5, 6. Uh-oh. All those opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2,
11,
5.
Are we going to still each get a chance to ask every candidate the same? And so I think in HR perspective, I know that you have to ask the same questions to every
Exactly.
candidate exactly the same, no follow-ups, no deviations to make it fair. So are we prepared to ask the same question, all of us, 3 times tonight?
I already know.
We need to commit to that, though.
And I don't know, and maybe HR can direct me on this. I didn't know that was something that's exactly true.
That's the way I've been
I've never heard that in my
to
life.
interview from a fairness standpoint. We hire.
For the same reason we can't ask a candidate if they're married, or you have to ask what limitations they might have for not being able to attend a meeting.
Oh, I
All those different
understand
types.
that. I'm just saying what Alderman Beck just said. I don't know that is something that is
might not-
mandated by
it might not be.
HR at all.
I don't know.
You do want to ask every candidate
Consistent.
the same questions. However, an individual's response may generate some follow-up, but you use the same basic set of questions for each candidate.
That was part of the reason for my voting against it, because that didn't seem organic in the interactions. Okay.
Dan, I know we already took the straw
Yes,
poll,
we
but
did.
can we just ask Wendy's opinion?
What though? What are we asking her opinion of? About HR process or about?
Specifically, if she has a thought on if there's a better, which way is the better way to do it? If you don't have a thought, that's okay also.
I don't necessarily have a thought in regards. I mean, obviously with the interview questions, I would agree consistent as we can. There's no law that says you can't vary, but I think it's important in fairness to every candidate. I don't necessarily agree on which format.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just throw this last piece out there. Your Honor, if it were up to you, would you prefer that we do it as a panel, or would you be okay with us deviating from that? I'm just curious what your input is.
Well, as you may remember, I'm the one that threw this thing on the table many years ago because by rights, I could make the selection, pick out who it is, and just come to you and say, this is who's going to get the job. And I thought we did that a couple of times when I was first elected, and I didn't think, it was not the best democratic way to do this. The way was to involve all the members of the city council in the interview process, because you were the ones that person was going to work with, and you were the person that you got to pick the person that you were going to work with. And so we would then have the city council meet each one of them. They'd interview them, ask them whatever they wanted to ask them. And then we would go into the back room there and we would hand everybody a ballot and say, A, B, C, which one do you like? And so that was how we originally, whoever got the most votes was the one that got it. Well, then there was some people who said, well, some of them I dislike. So then we switched it so that if you liked the person, you gave them a 1. If you mediocre, you gave them a 2. And if you really disliked them, you gave them a 3. And most recently, the person who got the least number of votes in total was the person that got elected. And then you would come out and announce who you had picked. And that's how this has been run. Now, interestingly, I probably have had 10 or 15 mayors in the area call me and ask how we do this, that they think this is just a neat idea. It's very democratic. It allows the council to have the say as to who's going to be working with them, and you all represent different ideas in different parts of town. And so that really speaks well to include somebody that you think would be the best candidate. So that's how it all came about. So I think it's working a good system now. I mean, I get people, other cities emulating us because this is the way we do it. They want to do it that way too.
I think everybody agrees on the process. I think Alderman Jansen was just asking if you think that they should be sitting all three together or if they should be individual questions.
Dismantling the panel.
That's you guys, I'm not going to jump into the middle of that.
The mayor has no comment.
To be fair, it was not a tie. So you don't need to break it.
Right.
Thank you.
One thing I would add is if you're going to sit it as a panel, maybe if you're worried about fairness, is that you would alternate who gets asked the question first. You know what I mean? As far as so that it's not always that first person gets, so then the rest of them have time to think of a different answer or something prompts their thought. So just rotate through that so everyone is kind of fairly put in that same position of slot of answering.
I would be happy to continue as we did it. If we go to individuals, I don't think we need to ask 11 questions 3 times. Maybe we have.
We've asked 20 questions before when things were super contentious. So
it might be necessary, but I don't know if it necessarily is. It becomes a more efficient process if we're doing them individually. But that's my thought. I don't have an obligation to ask is my statement.
Whose first time is it tonight doing one of these? Anyways. First time.
I support going with the way that we did it before too, with the panel, thinking about alternating people that answer first.
That's what we have done it like that, where we alternate the questions. But the reason I voted to keep doing it the way we did is it's about the interaction with each other. And we're not interviewing for an individual job per se. You're interviewing for being part of a larger body, and seeing how people interact with each other has more value to me than
Their interaction creates a gravy. It really does.
I believe that the interaction they have with council individually, because they're not going to be, two of these people are not going to be working with us anyway. So, I mean, I don't really.
That's not necessarily true.
Not right at this second, anyway.
As long as you have at least two other candidates, my name is Darrell O'Brien, 840 North Forest Avenue. But as long as you have two other candidates, I respectfully withdraw my application. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So is this method null and void then with two people?
No. Still the same.
Still the same.
Well, that shortens it up.
So are we,
I think I was waiting for.
do we have a consensus that we're interviewing them both at the same time?
I thought it was the other way, but.
It was,
Yeah, I think it was 6 to 5 to separate them.
Okay, so we'll go in the order in which the applications were received. So we will interview Dustin Piper Pleat first, and then we will interview Catherine Sisicki. So I guess Dustin, if you'd like to come up to the podium, and Kate, right? Kate, sorry. Would you mind waiting outside? Okay, I'll now come get you. Sure. Thank you.
Maybe wait over there. It's pretty cold out there.
You can wait over there, but she'll hear all your answers.
Laura, it's pretty cold outside.
Is it cold?
Yeah.
It's been
weirdly cold lately.
Get out.
Maybe you shouldn't have to wait outside. Wait in the vestibule over there.
go to the.
I'll be in the vestibule.
You go into the.
All right, I'm gonna run to the ladies' room with you.
I'm nervous right now.
Are you gonna, do you want to just, how are you gonna do the order of questions?
It's based on the turnout from the previous.
What we've done before is just
Yeah, that's
run
what I
around the
thought,
dais,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
But I don't know if we have to feel obligated to ask 14 questions.
Well, we only have, how many do we have here today? 11?
Yeah.
So we have 11. All right. Well, I'll ask the question first if anybody, if nobody cares.
I think we have a bathroom line.
Oh, geez.
I'll take a short recess.
Jennifer, there's two others that way.
Take a short recess.
We have bathrooms now in this building.
We have bathrooms. We have so many bathrooms. There are options. There's even one for you, James.
They're nice too.
There's a bathroom for you too if you need it.
Well, this lobby is now officially open.
Oh, no, we own the club. I got We're good back here.
Oh, really? It's over now. All right.
You guys ever been camping? Come on.
And I was wondering, it seems like it's so bright at this entry right now. I mean, is that the way it's always, it used to have like some different thing on the window?
Yeah, the exterior lighting out there really needs some work right now.
Oh, I think what you meant was
Like
the
see-through,
glass.
like the glass is see-through.
Yes, we are ordering film for the glass.
Okay, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
wondering. It just seems like it was different than it used to be.
Yeah.
So you have a confession, not really driving. You seem to be lobbying.
My favorite feature is the water fountain.
The water fountain that works?
The bottle fountain, the bottle fountain.
Is it there?
It is there. I purposely came with an empty bottle to fill my water. Yes. Trevor's going to use the bidet or not and say with the water.
Also, I'd like to welcome our first candidate. Who would like to begin the questions?
You're asking for, anyone wants to ask a question?
All right. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, opening statement.
Hello.
Do you have an opening statement?
Yes. So my name's Dustin Pieper. I live in Ward 4 on 104 North Prairie Street. I'm an engineer by profession, an electrical engineer to specify at the Fermilab. I moved up here for that job, but I specifically chose Batavia because I could tell it had what can be called really good bones. I moved here, actually, I'm originally from Missouri, but the last 7 years I lived in Huntsville, Alabama, and it is not a very walkable environment down there, where Batavia very much is. So I saw that immediately and thought that folks up here knew well what they were doing, I felt. And not just that, but the boardwalk shops greatly impressed me, as well as the River Street, or not River Street. Yes, River Street being a pedestrian street and having a very active farmers market. I could tell that Batavia has a lot of hope and potential for the future, and I wanted to be a part of that. So that's why I moved up here and why I'm hoping to become involved in city council.
My question to you and to the other candidate is going to be, what are your long-term goals for Batavia? Specifically, like, what would you like to, what is your 10 to 50-year plan for Batavia? Vision, I should say, vision.
Long-term, and this is something that's true of all cities, is to ensure that the city is engaging in what can be described as fiscally sustainable development, which means developments that can effectively pay for the infrastructure they use consistently. This is something that's greatly important citywide, because if your developments aren't able to basically pay for the infrastructure they're on, you're going to become insolvent someday. That's a key aspect, but it's not just about fiscal sustainability, because it turns out a lot of the most fiscally sustainable developments have a lot of other great positives for a community as well. They tend to be more robust in terms of not only use cases for that space, but also future-proofed in terms of transportation options, people having multiple ways to get around, which can lead to better economic outcomes for the people there. Often it tends to provide greater benefits for local businesses, which often keep money circulating within a town and thus improve commerce within that town and the economic sustainability there. And with it, tax sustainability, as businesses are able to thrive there instead of close down over time. And ultimately, the hope for the city is long-term to have a very firm community and a very sort of like local human community that people can be happy and proud to live in. People can walk freely around instead of, like we've seen tonight, almost be scared to cross the road anymore, where people can live and thrive. Batavia has gone a long way towards that, I think, and I think it has a lot of many, many years ahead of it. And I want to be a part of ensuring that happens. Thank you.
How are we doing, Dustin?
Fairly well.
Thanks for throwing your hat in the ring. It's appreciated. We need people to serve, and I like that you did that. So, I think everyone, at least myself being newer, we foresee some sort of immediate impact we think we can make, or some sort of, there's something in mind, right, that kind of drives you to want to do this. And Where do you see yourself having an immediate impact, or maybe better said, how do you see yourself making that immediate impact?
So prior to putting my hat into the ring, recently in the last few months, this is separate from city council technically, but it's related to civic development. I have been organizing a group that advocates for walkable urbanism in Batavia. And one of the projects we were hoping to put into practice just on our own is improved signage for bus stops that explain bus routes better. I don't know who here has used Route 802 out here on the, for the bus system. I've tried to use it before. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering. I could not figure out their routes in the time I needed to take their bus. It's actually a very confusing route. It's shaped like a 4, and it's actually 3 routes in one, all 3 originating from the Aurora train station, one going up to Geneva train station and back, one going up to the Kane County Judicial Center on Randall and back, and one occasionally going to their service bus center. And if you don't know that ahead of time, you might not know where the bus is going. And it was a very confounding thing. And I think good, clear signage at bus stops would help a lot with sort of demystifying our transit system and making it more open for everyone. So that's one thing I'm hoping to implement just on my own time. If city council would like to help, I'd be in favor of that. But in the city council, it really is advocating for whenever we have new developments come into town, especially greenfield developments, making sure that long-term, 30, 40 years down the road, they can bring in reasonably the tax money to pay for even the roads they're on. A lot of developments don't. You can kind of determine this based on what's called a value per acre analysis, where, because land is a city's most valuable resource, and you really want to look at if an incoming development is bringing in so much taxable income, and this has nothing to do with raising taxes, just as rates are right now, can bring in enough to pay for its infrastructure, which tends to be fairly related to service area. Like the further things are apart, the more roads you need, the more pipes, the more power lines, the larger service area you need for police and fire department, hospitals, school zones. Looking at those and basically seeing, can these places give a return on investment for the city? And if they can, that means that we can, over time, provide greater and greater amenities for our citizens and prosper as a town. So trying to implement those sorts of standards in our outlook as we develop, I think would be very valuable.
Thanks, Les.
I have a question to the rest of the group. Is this still being televised on BATV? Like how?
Yes.
Okay, just curious, in case. It's not as, maybe as.
Yes. James just gave us the thumbs up.
Okay. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring. What do you see as downtown Batavia's greatest strength and downtown Batavia's greatest weakness?
Our greatest strength, we have a decent amount of older buildings, which initially doesn't seem like a strength, but a lot of older buildings tend to sort of promote that walkable urbanism I was discussing, having very short setbacks, being close to the street, and providing a nice human-level corridor where more recent developments tend to have a large parking lot in front, which tends to discourage pedestrianism, for instance. River Street is a great example of this. Look how many people love to come out there and participate in businesses there. Even now that it's been turned into a one-way, it hasn't really stopped too many people. It's still a very thriving area. And if we could expand that further strategically, I think that would only continue to benefit us in the downtown area. Right now, our greatest weakness is honestly that the downtown acts as a major thoroughfare for traffic. We have Wilson Street being the only bridge up and down the river for a decent clip. So a lot of people use that to get through Batavia, understandably so, but it can lead to heavy traffic that can discourage people from wanting to shop downtown. And also, Route 31 definitely is almost like a wall for some people. It's somewhat ironic that IDOT's concerned about traffic because I wonder, by being so imposing, how many people are driving to downtown rather than walking, who live within walking distance, and thus generating traffic because of that. A lot of people have concerns with development generating traffic, but the right kinds of development can reduce traffic by reducing the need for car trips. And encouraging that in downtown would be a great plus. Also encouraging, smaller not smaller, but like apartment complexes in downtown. Residential life here would do a lot for the vitality of the city, because when you live near businesses, you're more likely to shop there. Where if you have to drive to businesses, you're going to go to Walmart because it's got everything in one place and you only have to make one stop. So it is really about just creating those developments that don't increase traffic, but rather increase local economic vitality. So I think we're in a great position to do that. We have a lot of potential development to be had. We have a lot of what in the urban realm is called missing teeth, which are lots that aren't developed and can be somewhat like off-putting to people. But those are also opportunities for us to make the right choices now and, develop a very thriving downtown. So.
Let me ask the question, are you aware of how many meetings you will be expected to attend during a year's period of time?
I have been watching most of the meetings over the last year. I've been in the back on a number of occasions, and when I'm not, I'm watching from home. I even also attend most of the Bicycle Commission and Environmental Commission meetings, so I'm afraid I'm all too well aware.
Well, the answer to the question is that by law, we have to meet the first and third Mondays of every month. And then this group has made the decision they're going to have this committee of the whole. We used to have individual committees for public safety and public utilities and that, and they decided, well, let everybody sit here on knowing what every committee is going to do. So we consolidated that into this committee of the whole meeting, and that generally meets the second and fourth Tuesdays. So there's 4 meetings a month times 12. That's 48 meetings a year that you probably will be, and there will be something that will come up that you're going to have maybe have a special like we did tonight on the whole discussion on Route 31. So I mean, you better be prepared to come 50 times a year, which I'm just sharing that with you because that's a number that's pretty liable to be on your face if you get the job.
It is an imposing number. It is one that I have been training for, montage style, for the last year. So I like to hope I'm ready for it. I know it's going to be being a responsibility. It's going to be an all too different experience. But I'm the sort of person that when I have responsibility, I'm very much guilted into it. So it should be fine.
Good evening, Mr. Piper. So I know that you have been attending and that you said you've been watching online. So as I'm sure you're aware, the seat that you're seeking appointment to, Mr. Connolly was just reelected to, running unopposed.
Yes. Oh, that's a good question.
So why wouldn't you just go get the 20-something signatures and try to run for this seat in the election as opposed to just seeking to get appointed now, especially when it was literally 2 months ago?
I have a very good answer to that. 2 months ago, I had not yet met the residency requirement. I would have been here 3 weeks shy of the election date, and therefore I didn't put my hat in the ring because I knew I would not have been eligible. I now am, so here I am.
Okay, there's the answer.
I'm going to go last or pass it to Sikanita.
My turn. Hi, Dustin. Thank you for putting your head in for this and be willing to accept all these questions being thrown at you. I am probably one of our big hot topics right now is the dam. What is your thought on the dam in Depot Pond?
Oh, that's a contentious topic. I can't remember which number it was. I actually liked one of the numbers that have been shot down already of the 5 options. Of the 2 that are available, I think it's is it A and B or A and D? It's A and B. I'm a bit split. I think I prefer the pump option for the simple fact that it does clear the impoundment. And I think that the ecological benefits from that are going to have a lot of downstream effects, if you will, for the city. We have a lot of fishermen here. Like, we have people fishing in the middle of the night. It's crazy. I suspect that will improve a lot once that impoundment has been washed out and the health of the river has been improved. But I do agree that having an active maintenance of a pump is a liability that we're going to have to keep tabs on. I would be curious what the evaporation rate of the pond would be. Like, how often does the pump need to be going? And that's going to be largely controlled by evaporation rate. Would it be that necessary? I also wonder, Depot Pond is famously, has a legacy for its ice skating. I believe the picture is right over here from the Saturday Evening Post. If I was here for most of the winter, I was gone for the coldest weeks, serendipitously for work reasons. Did we ever have complete ice over this winter on the Depot Pond?
It was 2 weekends.
Yeah, it's been very limited. I'm wondering if the pump solution could give us some variability to make that more viable, like, say, having a lower pumped value so that the water freezes over easier and isn't as dangerous. Or possibly even if we could, in the winter, pump it out and maybe put an artificial skating rink that a lot of places the South do this now, actually, to have the joy of ice skating in a place that doesn't accommodate it, just to keep that tradition alive, even if the weather isn't going to cooperate with us any longer to do that. That's one potential application of doing a pump solution, simply because it gives us control over that area. That being said, the rock weirs also have benefits. It has recreation benefits, as was suggested by the Park District. It also, I think, would be picturesque, if you will, although the impoundment is a major issue, as well as the cost. It is a fairly significant cost for recreation amenities are nice. I would be curious to see if that would pay for itself in terms of standard of living improvement in the area. It might, actually, if it made downtown a more pleasant place to be, but it's something to consider. I would probably lean towards A, but I think it's fair to say that there's no single right answer. They both have positives and negatives, and I'm swayable on that matter.
So as you know, we are a council of 14 people, each representing our wards. And just want to hear from you, what does that mean to you, being a representative of the residents in your ward?
It really means basically being present in that ward, making sure I can listen to everybody there. They definitely should take precedence, but also things in the town affect people throughout the town. A thriving downtown has a great effect on the people in Ward 4, being right next to it. I live in Ward 4. I go to downtown all the time. I walk to downtown all the time. It's an excellent amenity to have. So it is a bit of a balancing act to make sure that you respond directly to the needs of the people you're representing, because you are their advocate. I would be their advocate in that case. But it's also, you do need to take that city level view as well to make sure that we act as a cohesive community. So.
I've already heard a lot, so I don't need to ask anything crazy. How familiar are you or were you with the One Washington Place project?
I have heard inklings of it. I know where it was supposed to be. I know it was a very large project all at once. It was an external developer, which does set off a few small alarm bells for me, but at the same time, I know that development ecosystem doesn't provide many other opportunities as it stands. So sometimes you just have to take the cards as they fall. I wasn't here naturally for the grander debates, so I don't know some of the more granular details.
Sure. So my quick question was, if based on what you know or don't know, would you have voted for it or against it?
Ooh. I probably would have been tentatively for it for the simple fact that it did have a lot of advantages for that space, but I also have concerns that it would be a wrong-sized option for that area. So it really I would need to hear some more details on it to feel comfortable, like saying yes.
Sure.
Potentially I am, but I also know there's a lot of caveats and drawbacks there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, Dustin. As Tony Millay here, your current alderman for Ward 4. I think, we love living in Ward 4. It's got some great neighbors. But we have one of the gems, I think, of Batavia in River Street over here. And we've had discussion during the pandemic. We learned what the capabilities could be, some of the great things that have happened there. We have been having discussion about making it a DORA, being a designated outdoor refreshment area. I don't know if you're familiar with that. What are your thoughts on that? Would that be an appropriate thing in that area?
I've already heard rumors of this. I talk with the folks at Sturdy Shelter a lot, and they were telling me about it. I think it has a potential for a lot of benefits towards being a nice recreational amenity for the area. There might be concern about what you might call rowdiness generated from it. But I think we're still a small, sleepy enough town that we're not going to get the worst of it. And that really depends on the establishments that are here. Like most of the establishments in town are very relaxed. Like Sidecar, fairly relaxed atmosphere. Bar Evolution, it's like it's not like a kegger. It's not like a frat house. It's very respectable. And now we're getting Geneva Winery. Probably nothing too crazy out of that. Sturdy Shelter is a very lovely area. Now we have the new Brewstillery coming up. I'm currently in favor of it, yes, just so you get a lot of that cross-pollination of people who are here to have a nice evening, but who also might want to frequent other businesses in the area. And we'll see how it goes. But initially, I think it could be a positive yes.
Hey, Dustin, I would just ask this. In Ward 4, what do you think collectively is the biggest issue for your residents?
So this is something that I've most directly experienced, and it relates to the discussion we've had tonight. North Prairie Street is a bit of a speedway. It is 30 feet across, which means it's effectively 15-foot lanes, which is what you see on a highway. While there is street parking, it's only during the day, and it's fairly sparsely used, which means it doesn't calm traffic especially well. And in the evenings, there's a lot of like high-speed traffic zooming by because there's nothing to stop them. I would personally like to advocate there for an extension of the bike lanes on South Prairie Street, simply to have a through connection through that. And I believe that it's been called out on the Kane County pedestrian and cycling plan as a stopgap. I know that there could be some pushback because there are a few people who do park on that area. But I think it could lead to some positive traffic calming and also be a useful route for the school there, for people who want to bike their kids to school and in a safe and effective manner. That being said, we do have a good grid system there of side streets as well to kind of advocate for that. So Prairie Street is a bit of a concern. 25 as well, to an extent. That's an IDOT road though. So again, it's a bit out of our hands, unfortunately. But it's not nearly as notorious as 31 is. Those are my two largest concerns. Other than that, I think, Fourth Ward does pretty well. I think it could use maybe a bit more connectivity to surrounding neighborhoods. There's also especially the Challenger property north of there. I believe that's still in Ward 4. Is that correct? I'd have to look at the map.
Where's that?
The Challenger factory location.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's in the ward. At the river.
Yeah. That could use some additional development to be an amenity for folks there. But other than that, I suppose there's also the concern of Fabian on the north. I admittedly don't frequent up there too much, so I don't personally have experience with the conditions there for residents. I imagine I will soon enough if I do get accepted tonight. But those are the things that spring to mind immediately, yes.
All right, well, you touched on environmental issues, speeding, outdoor refreshments, so that's a lot of the topics that I was wanting to hear from you about. Alderman Lehman brought up that we are a council of 14 people. You will find that everybody kind of has strengths and things of expertise that they bring to the table. Tell me about your ability to lead the discussion when it is possibly your area of expertise, but then listen and maybe internalize and learn something from your potential counterparts when they have something to add.
Okay. I think the best way to put it is I am definitely an engineer. I like to be a problem solver. I like to find solutions for how we can improve the city. But I am cognizant of the concern, of the fear that it can be a bit of a steamrolling activity. It's like, we can do this. This will work. And there is the need to step back and really analyze what people say, what their concerns are. Sometimes it's not always like their immediate concern, but the broader concern around it. Trying to lead discussion around that. It's like, so what is the underlying issue, and can we find a solution to that? So that is like the greatest difficulty. I've read a lot about this stuff over the years, so I have a very like firm idea of how we can do things, but stepping back and understanding people have much more complicated issues with this. And that's true of all cities. Cities are complex situations that you can't always apply a one-size-fits-all solution to. So stepping back, really thinking about it and taking in that feedback of what are people's concerns, what are people's fears and issues with what's going on. Sometimes it's education, like explaining things that people honestly probably haven't thought about because everybody has very busy lives that they can't come to all these city council meetings like I've been doing. But also a lot of it is making sure that people are heard and that their issues are understood and appreciated. So it's a constant battle. I'm sure you've all felt that repeatedly throughout your careers here. And it's one that you're never quite ready for, but one I hope to continue to improve on and succeed at in practice. So.
I guess the only distinction I want to have is a little more detail on something that you're going to have to deal with often. And I heard you touch on it, but the bottom line is you have neighbors asking you to do something, and you know they're all wrong in your heart because you have the secret memos. You've got you've got the details in front of you. You have the engineering material. You read this thing. You just disagree with them.
Yeah.
Flat out disagree with them. Do you vote to represent the interests of your ward, or do you vote with your heart on what you think you are more educated on? And the reason I ask this is I had to deal with this. It's a personal failing. If I can't convince my neighbors that this is why I'm voting, then I need to decide, do I represent them or not? So where do you fall when it comes to that critical yes or no? Because it sometimes takes literally one vote to kill the Campana building, which we did with one vote.
You killed the what?
The Campana building. We had a project, one vote changed it.
Yeah.
And we lost it.
It's definitely very anxiety-inducing situation, and I'm sure it was for the vote there. It really is situational dependent. If people have significant problems with it in the immediate term, sometimes I do need to sit down and understand why that is. Even if I disagree with them initially, there may be something there that I'm missing. And it is a case of talking to people. Long term, if the disagreement is on something that I think will have significant long-term impacts on the city, I would have to follow my heart for the simple fact that otherwise, this enterprise that we call a city is doomed to fail almost. If it is a short-term issue, I would be more likely to worry about the people who are here now and follow their concerns, because if it's something that maybe people aren't ready for now, they might be down the road. And if it's not going to cause long-term damage to address this immediately, to not address this immediately, it does make sense to sort of ease people into it, as it were, over time. I know that's a very situationally dependent answer, but I think it's a very situationally dependent thing to consider.
Diplomatically explain yourself.
Okay.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any follow-up questions? If not, thank you very much. We will ask our next candidate.
Will there be a follow-up afterward, or do I just wait outside for the whole time?
Stick around.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there a reason why he needs to
Since
leave?
since there's only two people, I guess he could probably.
Does he need to leave? Are we going to be asking any other questions after, or, because he's already answered his question?
We can cover that.
I can stick around, but I have no problem.
There's a back room or outside.
Actually, the Alderman's room is fine. Yeah.
I don't know.
The back room is
In either place, he can hear all the answers.
Nice out.
He's already answered the questions, so.
That's fine.
It's like, I'm going to Sturdy Shelter. Somebody text me.
Good evening. Do you have an opening remarks you'd like to make?
I stepped out.
Oh.
Leah had to go check out the beignet.
New bathroom?
What is that called?
A bidet.
Bidet, thank you. Yes.
You got bidets in here now?
Yeah, the bidet without water coming up from it. I'm just kidding. I was totally kidding.
Oh, those are becoming very popular.
I know. I just sat there and I was thinking of that. I was like, I wonder if I should go in and say this.
Oh my God.
And I did. But it's not really one. But they have this really cool fountain that you can fill your water bottle at. I'm like so
That's not a
excited.
bidet.
No, it is not.
Thank goodness.
Well, it's next to the receptionist desk. Hopefully it isn't one.
I could lead us all in some stretching.
Yes.
And go calisthenics.
Ward 7 over here. Ward 7.
Multitasking. Yep.
Ward 7 is the fit ones.
Ward 7.
Representing.
All day, I gotta move around.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You have opening remarks you'd like to make?
Sure, thank you for considering me, and I'm very, very inspired by this community, and I'd love to be involved.
Hi. My question to you would be, what is your 10 to 50-year long-term goal for Batavia? Vision, I should say, sorry, vision.
I love the downtown, and I think that is just truly the heart of the community. I'd love to see that just bust open and become a city center, not just for Batavians, but for people from around. I know that I've got a lot of friends up and down the river, and I find that there's hesitation sometimes when I invite people from St. Charles or Geneva to come hang out in Batavia. They'll tell me, well, it's so far, and what's even there? And I'd love for, or I know a lot of Batavians who will say, let's go out and celebrate. Let's go to Geneva. Let's go to St. Charles. And I'm always like, what are you talking about? Let's walk down to the river. We've got all of this here. I'd love to see this be a place where people make their first plan to come. I think also I'd love to see more diversity out in the community. I think coming from Elgin, I grew up in a town where there was just very visible diversity, and there still very much is. And I think it's we're starting to see a lot of development over there as well. And in terms of even just diversifying city council over there and ideas, and people are coming out of the woodworks left and right to represent themselves within Elgin. And I think Batavia could be a community like that as well. So I think focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion is also really important. Yeah.
Is it Katie?
Katie.
Katie. Thank you for throwing your hat in the ring.
Yeah.
I think one gentleman said it, but it's probably a thankless job most of the time. I haven't been doing it long enough, but most of these people probably agree with that, so thanks. Myself included, I think most people have an idea of kind of something they want to make an impact on, or something that kind of has maybe brought you to the podium here tonight. Where do you want or see yourself making an immediate impact in the community on council?
I think the two institutions that are of the most interest to me are the school system and the library. I have little kids, and the library is just an endless resource for me. So I think probably if there's any opportunity to make a difference from a city council perspective on either of those institutions. But again, I really feel like the downtown is my absolute favorite place to be, and I'd love to just get more people coming down here and checking it out. Yeah.
For participating and running tonight. When it comes to downtown Batavia, what do you think our greatest strength is, and what do you think our greatest weakness is?
I think the strength is in the creativity of all and the tenacity. There are so many events. I mean, every 2 seconds I'm hearing about something else going in downtown Batavia, and it's stuff that I put on my calendar, on my kitchen, because I so want to be a part of it. I think definitely there is no shortage of ideas of ways to get people out here. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. I'd love to see River Street become a very permanently just walking pedestrian area. I think that's a little bit of a weakness. Sometimes it feels a little dangerous in that area. That's kind of been the topic today, just, getting around. I do think, Wilson is kind of the one route to get over the river, and that gets a little bit clogged up, and that's kind of where all the action is. So I think that's maybe a weakness in terms of just walkability and getting people down there. Yeah.
Well, I would like to ask you the question, do you know how many meetings you are signing yourself up to?
I do. I looked at it, yeah.
I mean, it's 2 a month, the first and third Mondays. And then many years ago, we changed we used to have individual committees for like public safety and community development. So then they decided we'd let everybody come to all the committee meetings. We'd have this committee of the whole meeting, which is on Tuesday nights. So it's either the first and third Mondays or the second and fourth Tuesdays. You're probably going to find yourself sitting here as a part of it. So if you start adding that up, that's almost 50 meetings a year.
Sure.
And so you're signing yourself up for a lot of obligations, but it's a great education. And you really understand what's really happening in town, and you get some insights that I think hopefully you'll understand Batavia a lot better. You sound like you understand it now pretty good, but this will be I've had other people get elected here and say, gee, I learned a lot about this town. So it's got a lot going for it, and most of it is very positive, despite if you sat here earlier tonight and heard all the problems we have on Route 31.
I grew up around here. I was actually brought here to learn how to drive. When I was in high school, they would drive us out here to teach us that how narrow this road was, and that we had to be mindful of staggering vehicles. So there was that from an educational standpoint, if you want to toss that out there. On the high school level, on the driver's ed level, we were brought out here to learn how to navigate this road. Yeah.
Good evening. Question for you. I know that you're seeking appointment for the 4th Ward, and Mr. Connolly was just reelected less than 2 months ago, running unopposed. It only takes like 20-something signatures to get on the ballot. Why didn't you just run?
I was not not up until this opportunity presented itself, someone who thought, oh, I'll run for public office or I'll get involved in that way. I knew I wanted to start getting involved, and I thought, well, okay. So I started going to school board meetings and PTA meetings. This opportunity presented itself, and I thought, my kids don't need me so much anymore. I've been waiting for that moment of inspiration for when I do go back out into the world. What do I want to do? So simply, it wasn't something I thought about until this opportunity was presented. And then I thought, you know what? I think I would be really good at that.
I guess my follow-up to that would be, though, this opportunity was available just a couple of months ago, and it was more advertised then because it's an actual general election. There's more knowledge about it. So, I mean, this was just a release from Batavia saying that, hey, now we have an appointment we have to make. So I still don't really know if I have an answer to the question as to what's the difference in the last 2 months.
It wasn't something I had thought about when someone was on the ballot. I thought, oh, I'll go vote for that person, and I'm always up on candidates and things. It just was not on my radar. I have a lot of people that I talk to around town, and it sort of came across my base of knowledge. And in that moment, I thought, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to go for that. It just wasn't something I had previously thought of doing.
Thank you. 2 months ago? 6 months ago to go on the ballot. Okay. Alderman Beck is correcting me. So we have a 6-month time frame. So, I mean, does that change your answer at all?
No, I think, I guess I could ask anybody the same question. What made anybody do anything one day? And this came across my lap, and I thought, okay, I'll try it.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for being here tonight and being a part of this the selection process. So I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts on the Dam and Depot Pond are.
Dam and Depot Pond. I know that area to be, there are all the signs over there that are like, do not go over here, and I see people over there all the time. I'm not currently aware of any issues on the table. Are there plans to renovate the area? Or I'm going to say that I don't know anything about that.
There.
Hi.
So, as you know, we're a council of 14 people, each representing our ward. And just curious, what does that mean to you, like to be a representative of the constituents who live in your ward?
It's very easy for me to make connections with people. I find when I walk around town, I'm the one making all the play groups for the moms from all different areas. I like to connect with my neighbors. I'm the person who, if I see you at the park and I find even a little bit of an opening, I'm going to come talk to you and ask you, where do you live? Where are you from? I like to hear what people think. And walking to and from school every day, I do have an ear to what people are thinking as to their perceptions of what is going on around town. And I think as somebody who does come to some of the city meetings and all of the city, social functions, I would love to be able to kind of bridge the gap between the people who do have concerns and don't necessarily get involved or come to a meeting or watch a meeting afterward. I'd like to just kind of be a steward of getting those people's ideas to you and also taking what is happening here back to them.
Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Do you have any history or knowledge of the One Washington Place project that was a big topic here for a number of years, or is that something that you're not familiar with?
That's not something I'm familiar with.
In that case, don't worry about it.
All right.
Thanks.
Hi, Katie. Tony Millay. I'm your current 4th Ward Alderman. Welcome to the 4th Ward. So you haven't been here too long, but I'm sure you're enjoying it as much as we do.
Yeah.
One of the gems in all of Batavia, I believe, is River Street, being in the 4th Ward. we've been having discussion. Well, during the pandemic, we learned what the possibilities were, and we're trying to further that. And part of the discussion has been about making it a DORA, which is known as a designated outdoor refreshment area. So alcohol could be moved between establishments. And what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that would be you would see as a good thing to do there or not?
I love that idea. I think that is just right for not only Batavia, but for that area specifically. There's a lot of, I'm down there all the time. My kid takes music lessons down there. I pretty much try to squarely stay on River Street or Wilson, and if it's not there, then I don't need it. But a lot of people will be at one establishment and go, oh, let's go over there. But what stops them is, not being able to kind of wander around and do things like that. I think that would be a wonderful direction to head in for that area.
Hello, Katie.
Hey.
In the Fourth Ward, in general terms, what do you see and what do you hear as you meet people out there as to the biggest concern for Fourth Ward residents?
Right now, the school entrances are a big issue. During the referendum talks, it was published that our entrances need attention from a security standpoint. That's been really disconcerting to the parents in terms of, okay, that information is out there, the referendum didn't pass, now what are we gonna do? I would say that's one of the bigger issues that I hear around town. I think a lot of people wanna see River Street, like you were saying, with be more of the social place where you can kind of walk around and go business to business. I think a lot of people here would love to see that. Being within walking distance of this, we're down here all the time. So I think that's definitely on people's minds as well. Yeah.
All right. As Alderman Lehman said, we're a council of 14 people. Some people will have expertise in some area. You will bring expertise of your own to the table. Tell me about your ability to lead the conversation when it is something you are strong in, and then also listen to your colleagues when it's something that they are strong in.
Yeah. I think my background in property management helps me there. I was a property manager for a condo board, and it was very much about synthesizing all the ideas on the table, which included resident ideas a lot of the times, and just sort of balancing what do we all think, where are all of our intersections coming into play, all of our experiences, and then what do we actually have on the table to work with. So I think I'm really good at listening. I think I'm really good at speaking up when we need to speak up. And I think I'm really good at finding ways to connect to anybody that I come into contact with. So that I think when we're communicating in big groups especially, what we first need to do is come from a place of empathy. So it's always my practice to be quiet and listen, find that one thing that we can come together on, and then we're gonna jump off from there. And if I can't find that yet, I'm just gonna be quiet until I do find it.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
You did touch on it a little bit, but I do want to clarify this. If you want to vote a certain way on a certain issue, because you know in your heart that is how it should go, and you think the input you're receiving from your neighbors and residents is wrong, how do you vote? Do you represent your neighbors, or do you vote with your heart? And how do you reconcile the two?
I don't know if there's a way to say what I would do in a given situation. I think any situation would be kind of unique.
Ultimately, what is your guiding principle that
To represent my constituents, unless it's something that I feel is morally reprehensible or is.
I'm not trying to be combative.
Yeah.
We get yeses and nos. It's analog.
I would represent my constituents above my own interests.
Any additional questions from the group? Okay. If not, thank you very much for your input this evening.
Thank you.
And
Go into executive session to do the voting and then bring them back in for the decision.
Why don't we bring Dustin in and explain that to both of them, and they could wait here while we go in the back? Is that, or is she?
There's no back.
There's no room.
Oh, there.
It's filled with filing cabinets.
Oh. I've never done this, not going in the back.
Do you want me
We've
to let
always
him know?
done it this
You can let them
way.
know and go out there. We'll come out and call you.
Yeah.
I mean,
thank
that
you.
room's
We're
wide
outside here
open.
and you can do your vote right out.
That's a big open room right now. See if we can go in there.
Yeah.
We could stand in the hallway. Yeah, we'd have the voting
I'm
slips.
ready to be moved into tomorrow. So I like
Are we just voting?
Yes, we're just voting and handing it in.
All right.
What are we marking, just X?
You check on the first and second.
X, check, smiley
So
face.
we are, what we should do first is have a motion to
you don't
go
wanna
into
leave that
executive session
Open to.
So moved.
Second. Laura?
and then call the vote.
Is it okay that we still have audience members?
When we go into executive session, the audience will have to wait outside too, if that's okay. No, but in executive session, then we can't have any audience members in. Oh, 5 minutes. Thank you.
So in this case, since the point, all our discussions on the points won't really matter, it's either you vote for or against, it's who gets the most votes, correct?
It's the least amount of points.
Yeah, least amount of points.
But in this
First place
case,
gets 0.
It's 0-1, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, right?
You want the-
I mean, I could just circle the one I choose?
Well, no, it could.
Are we literally doing 0 and 1?
They should check
for first and check for second.
place. Cross out the third line and the third column.
It's like
All
this.
right.
Everybody,
So
for
if
an
someone
example,
gets 0 points, then obviously we have consensus.
an example
somebody's
of
got
crossing
2.
out the final column in the bottom row.
I'm sorry.
Are we still broadcasting?
He has
Gary, you're
sound
elected.
turned off. They'll give us live mics now.
Thank you very much for your contributions. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the mayor.
What, you want me to do the announcement? Is that what you're saying?
You do a good job of giving historical perspective on why it is we do what we do. We were blessed with 2 very good candidates who gave very good answers, and we appreciate you participating in the process. On behalf of the city, I would say we would be lucky if either one of the 2 of you were selected. Thank you very much. And just because one of you might not win tonight does not mean that there are countless other ways for you to help the city out and give back to the community. And I will tell you, as someone who lost a vote, I've been here 13 years now, and I did get picked the next time around. So it does happen. But thank you. I'll turn it over to the mayor now.
Before I say the winner, let me just say that at the city of Batavia right now, we have some vacancies in some other boards. And ironically, one of the boards that we have a vacancy on is the Batavia Plan Commission. And what has happened is that many years ago, as the mayor, I got the city council to kind of informally agree with me that we would try to keep one person from each of the 4 quadrants of town on the Plan Commission. And right at the moment, I'm shy of somebody in the northeast quadrant for the Plan Commission.
When Citizen Stark moved out, or?
No, she's not there anymore.
Right.
She moved. So anyway, Dustin, you were the one that was chosen to be the alderman. And Katie, I would like to suggest that I'd like to appoint you to the Batavia Plan Commission if you'd be interested in doing it. Because that's many times a stepping stone for people to run for this body, but you really, I think, have some strong background that could serve the Batavia Plan Commission very well. Okay, so well.
Yeah, winning all around.
Everybody's
Win-win.
Everybody's a winner.
I was hoping, somehow we'd
Keep the mayor's name.
that we'd be able to point somebody to the Plan Commission out of this whole process. I was watching with great interest who it was because we just couldn't find anybody that wanted to serve. So thank you for applying, and you're on your way.
And so we would like to invite you both back to the city council meeting that will be on June 20th. So it's odd that it's on the Tuesday instead of the Monday, but 2 years ago, we adopted Juneteenth as one of the city holidays. And so the city council meeting will be on June 20th, and that will be Dustin's swearing in and also the appointment to the Plan Commission. Great.
All right.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since all we have left for this evening is another executive session, thank you both, and thank you to the audience members who stayed for all of this. Appreciate you. And so when we go into executive session, we'll bid you adieu. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Have a good night. Thank you.
See ya.
Motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in
Aye.
No, none of ours.
opposed? And we'll go into executive session.